But Harbor, he's taking a shot downfield, wide open end zone, caught, touchdown. It's Malachi Coleman.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
A lot of grass to Klubnik's left. Here he goes, wide side. Klubnik trying to break away. He cannot. It's Corey Flag, and Miami wins.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
It is done! The Utah Utes!
Pulls to the right, looks, throws on the run. It is incomplete. Broken up by Jahdae Barron. It was intended for Stephon Johnson, the hero of the Hail Mary, and Jahdae Barron comes up, hero for Texas.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Spawn from the one, whose coverage has been strong so far tonight, but he breaks free. Deuce Spawn in a foot race. They'll never catch him. And the Noles special teams strike back quickly.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
May just barely got it away, and the ball is caught. Intercepted James Jackson for Virginia at the 42.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And good afternoon on what has been kind of a rainy, wet, drizzly Thursday, at least around in here central Texas. Started raining very early this morning. It feels good out there. A little bit muggy, but hope you've had a really good day wherever you are around this vast country, coast to coast, and even overseas. We appreciate you watching, listening, and being a part of our show on 365 Sports. We will put up the link in a moment to the college football pick'em, brought to you by TexasBeefHouse.com. Here's something to start the day with. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak. These are T-shirts that are now available through Sikkim365.com. There is a section on the website, bearskins.com, BearSkinz.com. And there's different colors. There's crimson, and there's red, and there's blue, and there's black and gold, whatever colors you may want. That's one of them right there that are available now. T-shirts, different sizes, different colors. You can go to that, and I'm going to put up the link to that here in just a second. Also, here are some starting quarterback stories in college football. None of these are like breaking news, but just in case, it's official. Steve Sarkisian in Texas, we knew this. Malik Murphy is now going to be the starter, but they're also trying to figure out about whether or not they would use Arch Manning, or are they still trying to put him in deep freeze until next year? What about Savion Red, who's done a nice job with them and almost becoming their Wildcat running back? But Malik Murphy, official, we knew that. There was no other option, really, not Arch Manning either, and he starts for Texas against Brigham Young.
Well,
BYU, damn it.
They can play Arch 4 times this year, and he can still redshirt. So, there's only a couple more games in that, so they've got some leeway to play him a couple times and see what they get, and they can still redshirt him if they don't go over 4 games. So, yeah, I wouldn't see that. I don't see the benefit to not playing Malik Murphy every snap that you can get him as long as he's out there, because you don't really know how long Quinn Ewers is going to be out. You feel like he's going to come back, but I would spend the next couple of weeks, as long as he's not struggling mightily, making sure that Malik Murphy gets every rep that he could.
Yeah, I think, Malik Murphy will obviously be the guy to get the bulk, at least initially, and I'm excited to see, what he looks like actually throwing passes. What does he look like actually running an offense, because we've seen very little of that, and then last week, obviously, they kept the ball on the ground. What can he do in a full-blown setting? I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see Arch if it comes to that. I think that all the hullabaloo about him and, $100,000 trading card that people are paying for before the guys even, touch the grass. And, I think the opportunity to see him and at least throw him in there while you got the red shirt to still maintain and the time to be able to do that. That'll be a fun little side thing to this to see his debut, because I'm sure that'll be a viral moment and, a much talked about debut. So you mentioned Savion Red. I mean, he's a wildcat. I mean, he's a running back. So, down in the goal line or whatever situation, short yardage, they want to use him. But, I mean, he's not a quarterback. So if we see Arch, that'd be cool. I wonder what that would mean, though. Does that mean Malik Murphy's struggling? Does that mean it's just a little wrinkle like Sark alluded to? I don't know. But, nice little surprise to have up your sleeve to unleash perhaps as early as this weekend. And, excited to see both of those quarterbacks because they were highly rated and there's been a lot of talk about them. So, that's going to be very interesting.
Malik Murphy, Texas, and there's that. It's official. They discussed it, the tweet from Kirk Bowles. Here's also the updated Kansas. Again, this is what everyone expected, but now Jason Bean will start. Brett McMurphy, among many others, he will start. Jalen Daniels remains doubtful, who's now missed, I think, at least 4 games. Bean will be making his 4th start. And there were some responses to this based on whoever the writer was that put it up, is that, man, this Jalen Daniels thing is kind of weird. But when you have lower back injury or a lower back problem, again, it's a tough deal. So Jason Bean gets the start for KU at home against Oklahoma. Yeah,
not a surprise. He's been playing pretty well for them. I know you'd rather have Jalen Daniels when you're going up against a team like Oklahoma, but you never know. It's at home. Things that get weird. Oklahoma got weird last week, so we'll see how they bounce back after what happened against UCF.
Yeah, I think the UCF game is actually, potentially bad news for Kansas because it really alerted OU to some of their issues that they can then try and shore up this week. I think OU is still a team that, had that game pretty well within control for the most part. But, UCF made it super dicey there at the end and, made it a much more of a difficult outing than I think a lot of people expected. So, the positivity side of me thinks that will be a learning lesson or at least a little bit of a wake-up call, and Oklahoma comes out super sharp knowing the stakes and knowing that, it's going to be a big atmosphere with this being the last KU-Oklahoma game for a while, and also a road environment and big noon kickoff and all those types of things that can make things bigger than they otherwise would be. But, KU's got, a great quarterback, and not great, but they've got a good quarterback in Jason Bean, he's as much the starter now as Jalen Daniels is. As far as this year goes, he's played way more at this point, so they should be fine with him. He threw for a lot of yards last week. He can. I know you brought up his running. His running was more in his earlier days when they weren't as good, and he hasn't run as much this year. But he's capable of doing that. Although I wonder if they're hesitant because of then where do you turn if Jason Bean gets hurt?
Right.
So you got to protect him now. Just unfortunate, though, on Jalen. So that's going to be an interesting game. But, unfortunate on Jalen Daniels. Said it yesterday, said it multiple times at this point. It's not the Cam Rising situation, but it almost starts to feel like that. It's just that he doesn't have the debilitating season-ending injury that he's, been dealing with and then, made things so questionable. We thought he was coming back and healthy and ready to go, and this thing's just been lingering. So it's a bad deal for the Jayhawks fans and just a kind of not a fun way for him to, most likely end his Kansas career. So hopefully sooner rather than later, but we're getting down to the final month. There's 5 games left. He's not playing this week, so there's 4 games, then a bowl game if they get eligible, which they are 1 win away from, so they will. Just probably not this weekend, but when is he going to be ready, if at all, at this point?
And who knows, maybe there's still at least the outside shot, although it is not much of an opening to be in the Big 12 championship game if they were to make a run, which means they have to pretty much win out. Mike Bean is a big KU fan, saying that their backup to Bean is a true freshman. So there we are with that. Mike, thank you for that information. Speaking of Kansas and OU, yesterday morning, remember a jock radio station in Kansas City was upset that KU fans had not bought out the tickets. It's now an official sellout. KU fans, Oklahoma will bring their large contingent as they always do. It should be at Memorial Stadium on Saturday. Big Fox noon kickoff will be there. Big noon kickoff will be there. I think it's going to be I think this will be a 40-34 type game, in my opinion.
It was like a morning show, like Big Stinky and the Wheeze kind of a show.
No, I think this guy was actually, or maybe does morning sports.
Okay. Well, I'm sure he may take credit for this anyway because it's what we radio people like to do. But if it was Big Stinky and the Wheeze or whatever they want to call themselves, then
Butch and Chop.
yeah,
What was that?
yeah, I was on a show like that. So, but yeah, no, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I mean, you got to give the students time to figure it out, or people time to decide. You know, not everybody is Texas A&M or Iowa State and essentially gets 5% away from a sellout as soon as the tickets go on sale. So everywhere is different. It's a problem everywhere. And Kansas is, again, new to this. So, maybe it took them a second to realize, like, oh, hey, we better go get our tickets this week.
Well, he got the job done in the end, no matter how much prodding there was earlier in the week. Yeah, I do think that was probably a kick in the butt, I guess, by a fan or, just somebody invested that wanted to see them sell this thing out. So they did, just needed a couple days more than you liked to do it, but they got the job done. And, I wonder how much of that's going to be Crimson when all is said and done. But I'd imagine there's going to be a good bit of blue there at home and, a great atmosphere. Last time, again, Oklahoma may go there for quite some time. Last time they might play for quite some time. And this isn't just a Big 12 thing. This goes back even further, right? So this is one that should be pretty special for I don't know how much for the Oklahoma side. They're kind of too good for it all. I feel like in some of these cases, sort of like Texas of on their way out. But I'd have to imagine for some parts of the fan base, maybe you've been playing KU for a really long time. So I'm sure there's some familial ties and whatnot in certain situations. So this will be the end of an era for at least right now. And, I'd expect a lively atmosphere. And KU absolutely has a chance if they play well. Or if Oklahoma, like last week, kind of shoots themselves in the foot on occasions and that adds to it. UCF just couldn't finish the job, but KU's a talented team, so let's see what happens.
All right, so there's that. Now, there was an update. Don Williams had this up. I didn't send this to Garrett, but Baron Morton, Joey McGuire saying that Baron Morton throwing in practice for the first time since before West Virginia and will start against TCU, so he is back. They need that. Again, he's not perfect. He's not flawless, but as much of a story as Jake Strong was, and especially in that game against, my goodness, was it against Kansas State initially? Eventually, he just turns the ball over way too often. And so Baron Morton, hopefully he can stay healthy. Texas Tech in a need, must win the rest of the way. Otherwise, they're going to be struggling to get to a bowl game like a lot of the middle of the pack and below in the Big 12.
Yeah, they're off this week, but in a bad way. I mean, they've got to start winning some games, and did not meet the hype that was rolling with them in the preseason. So yeah, they need to get out of their funk. They're right now, on the bottom rung of that ladder, and you'd like to finish towards the top of the middle if those teams at that spot, and Texas Tech is certainly one of them right now, and they really do, like, long term. Looking at this, have to look at how do you keep your quarterbacks healthy, because this is 2 years in this system and 2 years where almost all of them have had injuries.
Yeah, they had an unfortunate, I guess, batch of bad luck when it came to the quarterback situation so far this year, and coming on the heels of the hype train throughout the offseason. Not what you wanted at all, but that's part of the game, and that's just to be a what if of what could have been had Tyler Shuck never got hurt or Baron Morton wouldn't have got hurt. But, man, yeah, last week was, that was just a really bad look. Jake Strong just not ready for prime time, not ready for the bright lights in Provo, and just too many turnovers. And you could tell that Joey McGuire was bothered by it, but there's like a line you can't cross as a coach and saying what you want to say. And I felt like he was very much like up against that line. He was so frustrated, but also couldn't go in on his, young quarterback who's just had a ferociously bad game thrown to the Wolves, and hopefully a learning lesson for him in the long run. But, yeah, that's good news that Baron Morton will be back, because they're not going to win much right now with Jake Strong the way things are currently constructed. But Baron Morton does give them a better chance. That's going to be a Thursday night game against TCU coming up, and TCU's been weird at various points this season. They had a shockingly bad loss last week to K-State that Sonny Dykes was completely blindsided by.
Yeah, he said that, yeah.
He's completely blindsided by that. So, that'll be an intriguing game from the standpoint of two Texas teams kind of jockeying to, keep their head above water in so many ways. But, yeah, having Baron Morton back certainly gives them a better chance. And a Thursday night in Lubbock will be, I'm sure, a raucous atmosphere, knowing how badly they need a win.
And then there's Cade McNamara. He's part of the numerous quarterbacks in college football who's been hurt. He did today or last night posted this, and he's coming back. He's going to come back for one more year. The vision remains the same. There's still a lot I want to accomplish in the black and gold. Look forward to bringing it to life in the 2024 season. Go Hawks, and obviously that would not hurt the offense, which he was supposed to help early on when he's back for them next year.
Well, I think he'll be playing for a different offensive coordinator. I think that's going to happen, considering that there's no way they get to 325 points right now unless they turn into.
Is that a real thing, or is that a demotion of salary?
That's the guidelines.
The guidelines.
That's what they said was that he had to get to 325 points.
That's a lot of
he's
points.
not. It's 30 points a game.
That's a lot of points.
Yeah,
How
or
many
20
teams?
or 27.
Well, you played 13 games. That's
so
about,
whatever it was. But it was 30 points a game because they were on average or whatever it was. It's doable for most. They put him right in the middle basically of college football, right? So they said, look, we understand that you're not going to be, Joe Burrow LSU in a year, but
nobody else ever will be.
What's in the middle of that, and that's the where they gave them. And I don't know. I wonder, they're going to have a new AD, whether it's their interim AD Beth Getz or if it's somebody new entirely. And I wonder what they do about the Ferentz family and Iowa football going forward. Kirk Ferentz has been there since Hayden Fry retired, so they've only had two coaches for the last 45 or 50 years,
the Steelers
essentially.
With no Cowher and Tomlin.
And while I think that's an admirable thing, there comes a time for everybody to step aside. And what's coming down the mountain at Iowa and Cade McNamara next year as he's the quarterback is that there are 4 teams coming in, and you don't get to have the rest of the Big Ten West, who was still kind of just playing to score a little bit more points than you, even though they weren't doing that. That's all coming down the pipeline. There's no more Big Ten East and West. You can't just hope that the rest of the teams in your side are bad and you can wind up in the Big Ten championship game with 2 losses because you happen to play Ohio State and Penn State that year. That's just not going to work for Iowa anymore. So, it's going to be interesting to see what Cade McNamara's offense is going to be next season.
Yeah, woohoo. I mean, that's good for him, I guess. They only had to average 25 points per game. That was the threshold, was 25 points a game. And right now they're not going to probably hit that, especially when you've scored 27 total in your last 2 games, which is just unbelievable. But, hey, they find ways to win. I mean, they're 6-2. It's amazing. They're second in the Big Ten West behind Wisconsin as it stands right now. So they still win games, but anything Iowa offense doesn't really get me excited unless you're talking about a major OC change at this point. So, yeah, good for him, but doesn't really, get me ramped up for the 2024 season all that much.
I looked it up, and it surprised me. How many of the 131 FBS schools do you think average scoring 25 points or more per game out of 131? Garrett, you got a number?
Out of how many again?
Out of 131, how many college football programs at the FBS level average scoring 25 points or more per game?
I would say in the 80s.
Okay. Paul?
I would say 75 or more.
Greg?
100.
85.
Okay.
Makes sense. See, I'm surprised because they're in the Big Ten. Now, I know some schools in the Big Ten, they put up some numbers, but I thought because of that almost dummies it down a little bit because of the style of play. That really surprised me. 85 schools average more than 25 points per game, and so I thought initially that was a little bit high. Now, a couple of notes on Michigan. Pete Thamel, just a little while ago, put this up that the NCAA enforcement staff has actually been on the Michigan campus this week to look into that sign stealing probe. Their arrival on campus a week after the investigation launched is an indication, of course, how priority this case is taken on for them. And then let's have something fun with this, and we'll get back to that story. So the story about Connor Stallions getting tickets to games of teams that they might play that matter down the road, opponents this year or even playoff, this one cracked me the hell up. This was his ticket last year to go scout TCU. That's when, see, this is when Twitter to me is just cool as hell. And of course, it can be just nasty and disgusting. But because of the loss to TCU.
Although, that game was close. But look, maybe Sonny and Dykes doesn't use signals. I don't know. Maybe do something different. maybe there's a lot of teams that call their quarterback over to the sideline and whisper the secret to him, and then let him go back over. But yeah, I like that one. That was clever.
Yeah, that was a fun twist on what has been a joke beaten to death with the TCU thing already. I mean, I've seen every mention of that like 1,000 times at this point, like after each other as well, almost like nobody even sees that they're just piling on the same joke. But at least that's got the twist of the picture. It's still a funny joke. I've seen it to death now at this point. The TCU thing, but that is a nice twist on it. So yeah, as far as that all goes in general, bizarre story, and not surprised that with all of the drumming up of discussion this past week and the new evidence or whatever, the things that people have pointed out along the way. Yeah, not surprised. I mean, the amount of attention that this thing is getting, that they're starting to take a look at it. I don't know what all that means in the long run or anticipate anything, anywhere close to being quickly resolved. So this will be a little interesting battle. Harbaugh, we got coaching season coming up here in just, the next few weeks. And, does he just say, screw all this, I'm out of here? Or, does he stick in there and fight it out and Michigan defends itself and then, throws middle fingers at everybody? I don't know. I don't know how this is all going to, play out, but it's a fascinating story in some ways, and never thought I'd need to know the name Kurt Stallions or whatever. Like I said yesterday, it still to me sounds like a porn star.
Yeah,
it does. But we'll see where this goes. I know there's a lot of people obviously heavily invested though, and you don't have to look far to see Penn State fans and Ohio State fans and everybody that's not going to let this thing die out. So yeah, we'll see.
All right, you want to know about crazy? All right, so we have this audience, this great audience, you on 365 Sports with us. Jax Brown, who's the quarterback at Weiss High School, we have their game tomorrow night against Midway. He put this tweet up earlier, I think it was just a little while ago, about the fact that he had come back from ACL reconstructive surgery, and I wondered if I'd ever play football again. He then included his orthopedic surgeon. I retweeted that. That's all I did. I just retweeted it and mentioned we had the game tomorrow. His orthopedic surgeon just sent me a direct message. I just saw your repost of Jax. You won't believe this, but I'm a Mountaineer fan. Watch your show on YouTube every day. You all do a great job of taking all things college football. Anytime you want to talk injuries, let me know.
Oh, awesome.
It's like out of nowhere, which I think is cool. And Chad Lavender, the doctor.
Appreciate you.
Thank you very much for you watching. A lot of great West Virginia fans who are a part of what we do. I just wanted to throw that out there because you never know who's watching and the connections of anything you might have coming up into the future.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate you, and good work, I guess. You're patient there.
Yeah,
but
he's a dude. Jax Brown, he's an alpha.
Yeah, and so I wonder where you sit on the Neil Brown fence, and as that starts to get very interesting again with a couple of losses in a row, and certainly the natives getting restless once again based on that loss to Oklahoma State. They're still very much in the mix and a team that's going to fight, but starting to kind of get that feel that it's going south again, and I'm very much a fan of what they've been able to do so far and how they've been able to fight compared to what the expectations were. But yeah, that's one where you don't quite know how the rest of this season is going to go for them. They could fall off a cliff, or they could pull out some more wins, and it's going to be a situation to watch when carousel season rolls around. But I think Neil Brown did himself. He got out of what a potential big hole he might have been in early on, had the great start to the season, and now it's like, can you maintain that, though, at a certain level, or are you going to start to slip? And they certainly slipped the last couple of games.
All right, here are some notes from Brett McMurphy's Law column. College Football Playoff Committee forecast. This is according to Brett, based on what the guidelines are in setting the table for week one. Last year, remember, the team that was number one the first time they released the numbers was Tennessee. His forecast doesn't mean this is going to happen, because can you imagine how many people were like, oh my God, where's Georgia? That doesn't mean Georgia won't be 2, 3, whatever. But based on the criteria, Ohio State has top 25 wins against Notre Dame and Penn State, which is awfully salty. And they've got warts. Florida State against LSU to start the year, and also Duke. Oklahoma against Texas, Washington against Oregon, Georgia nor Michigan have a top 25 win. And someone might go, wait a minute, Georgia beat like Duke. No, who was it? They beat somebody that was Kentucky. And Kentucky right now is not ranked in the top 25, which brings me to a question for both of you and the chat room. I don't know if that's the way I like to see it, that if you beat a team that was ranked 7th in the country or 17th in the country in September, and then they knock themselves, they lose, they get knocked out of it, doesn't and shouldn't it come down to, were they overrated? Did they lose a quarterback? Did they get injury riddled? Weren't they pretty good at the time? How do you balance when they were ranked and when they're ranked now, and what they're ranked now?
I think you have to take, and that's what the committee's job is, to take all factors into account. Now, I don't know if you can say that they actually do that all the time, but I mean, I'm not.
They do that if it helps their narrative.
Yeah,
of that week.
and or help the preconceived notion. So I don't know. I think you have to take everything into account, and this will be even more interesting to see when they have to pick more at-large teams the next year, which I actually think should be easier in most regards. I might wind up being wrong on that, but when you're trying to whittle it down to 4, I think that's the hardest thing, is you're looking for reasons not to put somebody in, so it creates more things as opposed to reasons to put someone in, because you've got to eliminate, probably 5 or 6 teams that have almost identical resumes, so you have to nitpick and create things that are not really a thing. So yeah, because it's not. If you beat the 17th ranked team in the country on September 10th, it's not your fault what happened to them afterwards. But also, it kind of shows the flaws in the rankings early in the season, because nobody really knows, who's going to be what or what's going to befall a team right away. I mean, that's why they play the season.
I think it should probably be weighted into 2 different categories, because what if you lose, or what if you beat a number 5 team and then they're no longer in the top 25 5 weeks later because they lost their starting quarterback?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So maybe they were the number 5 team in the country in week 1 when you beat them, and then they weren't later on because they had a rash of injuries or, whatever happened. They lost a bunch of close games and they just got pushed out of the rankings, but they're still formidable. Their record just doesn't indicate that. So I don't know. There's so many numbers flying around in sports these days, and I'm not a numbers guy, so maybe I'm just in the wrong business when it comes to all of that. There's a way to figure in and factor that and weigh that, and you can have your, hey, we beat a total of this many teams and that counts for this, and then here's the actual teams that were ranked, and this is what really matters, or why. I mean, there's enough metrics and all of that to figure out a way to do that for the playoff committee. But yeah, you shouldn't just have it straight up like every top 25 win the whole year counts all the same as who's ranked at this point in time, because there is a difference. But there's also like the wild card, like I mentioned, of, well, there could be a strong reason for why. And so that win early on should still count as heavily as it did at the time, even if that team has fallen off since then. So yeah, I'll leave that to the math people to come up with some other graph that can, explain that in better detail and how that would be weighed. And I'm sure those committee members have all those tools and those types of people at their disposal to be able to sort through that. So yeah, that's some of the things, the metrics and stuff that you got to look a little deeper into and not just take at surface value of, they beat 6 top 25 teams. Well, there's more detailed reasons behind how, who, what, where, when, and why. So I'm sure that gets factored in.
Yeah, Camelo, eye test and where the teams you beat are ranked at the end of the year. That is taken into consideration. That's why you might see some juggling of 2 to 4, whatever, and sometimes you wonder about how that works out. If Michigan and Ohio State were it being the 4, there's no way. No matter how it probably was analytically, data-wise, analytically, or the eye test, that they would play them in the semifinal game. There's just no way they would move. They would separate them if that was the case.
Who?
Michigan and Ohio State. If they were both to make the 4, they would no way have them play in the semifinals, even if they were ranked in that fashion.
I don't agree. I think that, it would all depend. If there's a clear-cut number 1 and then there's a clear-cut number 4 and they're clearly 2 and 3, like I get what you're saying, but so you're gonna not do Ohio. If Ohio State and Michigan are clearly 2 and 3, you're gonna not do that and just hope that they make it for this massive national championship game.
I think that they would figure out a way,
or just you wouldn't have it.
Unless it was so separated.
Well, that's what I mean.
They would play. They would not play each other in the semifinals.
Yeah, I take it as you're saying it could never happen no matter what. I'm saying if there's a clear cut 1 and 4 and they're clearly 2 and 3 or they're clearly they're clearly a separation, I don't think that you avoid it at all costs. I think you'd love it to be the national title game, but damn, you don't want to whiff on it just because like you don't want to have it be not the national title game. So if it's a semifinal, like I don't think the TV network execs are going to be crying too much. I think that they throw it out there if it made sense. But yeah, if at all possible, if there's a way to explain it to where they should be separated, then yeah. But I don't think you avoid it if it's the obvious to go to.
The only way I could see that as a scenario, because that would essentially mean they would play 3 weeks in a row, is if that they play 3 games in a row. They play 2 games, like they play each other in the last game, then they play each other in the championship game and split it.
And if once they go to no big
division. Because they couldn't. Okay. So or one of them already has a loss. The other one goes to the championship game. They do the thing. But yeah, so I don't think you could because they won't this year because whoever wins that game. But if there's that three-way tie that could technically happen with Penn State, if Penn State beats Michigan and Michigan beats Ohio State, and then you see them, but they would each only have to have 1 loss. Then whoever's number 1 would have to have 0 losses, and whoever's number 4 would have to have 2
or a bad one.
The odds of it are low, but I know what you're saying. I just don't think that you can really afford to miss out on a heavyweight matchup, hoping that the national championship game could be this. It's like no. Throw that bad boy out there in the semis and see what happens and get yourself a monster 12 rating, And what
I've forgotten, guys, is the fact that it changes. It's to 12 teams.
Yeah.
So it's not like the current model. I'm talking about this year because otherwise they would completely be able to move it around for next year. Why are you talking about Michigan in the national championship game? They've cheated. Until they're not, they are. Until they're not eligible or lose a game or 2, they are involved in this discussion.
Here's what I'll ask that person. I'm going to let your house get robbed. I'm going to give you the 2 options of your local police department's dumbest cop. The dumbest one. The one who barely made it to being a police officer solving that crime, or the NCAA, and I guarantee you, your Barney Fife will solve it faster than the NCAA will. So, when we keep saying this, whatever they did, there is a very thin chance that the NCAA can get this worked out before they would play in a national championship game, should they make it there. There's no way they can get it done before they would play in the Big Ten championship game. So there is so much that they're going to have to do, and there's no way. They could have the evidence that shows Connor Stallions at Minnesota's field pointing his cell phone camera at PJ Fleck's sideline, and they're going to go, this is not totally conclusive. We've got to go through this. Plus, Michigan would have the right to appeal, thereby slowing this down completely anyway, which is why Jim Harbaugh wasn't suspended by the NCAA this year, because he's under appeal, and he was suspended by Michigan, so they can maybe make that go away for the other thing that's going on with Jim Harbaugh in Michigan.
Yeah, they're in it till they're not, and there's no indication they're not going to be involved, as far as the playoff picture goes. So, let that situation play out the way that it will. But, man, you look at that, and I haven't been all over keeping tabs over every little development and everything like that, but when I saw that little clip yesterday of Stallions, whispering in his ear on the sidelines, right up next to him with his big, it was just like, gosh, that does look bad in the argument of things. But I know it'll all come out in the wash. I don't have a dog in the fight, so I'm just a bystander watching it with interest like everybody else that is not, an Ohio State or a Michigan fan or whatever. But, yeah, they're in the playoff picture until, somebody comes in and says they're not, and that's not happening anytime soon. So until then, if you don't want them to be, you better just root for them to lose a game. But even that's not looking so great right now, although obviously some big ones looming.
All right, we have Blair Kerkhoff coming up from the Kansas City Star in a little bit. There's one more note I want to get to, and this is, I don't know how we're able to do this, Garrett, on the SEC. Here are the 4 schools. Before you put it up, Garrett, Craig and Paul, name 4 schools in the SEC, fan bases since they started the rule that you cannot storm the field. And this, I think, goes back even deeper than that. Name 4 schools in the SEC since they put in the rule about storming the field that have not stormed the field.
Vanderbilt.
Alabama.
Right. No.
Okay. Georgia.
Yes.
Florida.
Yes. I would never have gotten this one right.
Alabama, Florida, Georgia. LSU?
No. They're like one of the most biggest culprits. They're just a bunch of animals.
You're right. No, yeah, you're right.
And they don't even know they're storming the field most of the time. They're inebriated.
Kentucky.
No, it's Mississippi State.
That was going to be my next guess.
There it is. That's from Brett McMurphy. He has some great stuff in his column that he puts up usually on Wednesdays.
Are you talking about all time or since the rule?
This is they've never rushed the field after a win.
Well, if you're Alabama and Georgia, you shouldn't rush the field because you're favored in every game.
Yeah, but they went through the drought, and maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, right now, and field rushing wasn't as big of a deal.
No,
in the years,
it's like the wave.
Yeah, but Florida. I think part of the reason they do it, they announce it. If you go there, they announce they make a big deal about it. But also, it's kind of a from the student section, it's a little bit of a tougher field to rush. It's a kind of a high wall. So, they've not done it. I'm really surprised.
David M. saying Georgia rushed the field after a Tennessee win, but apparently I talked with Brett about this. He said no, these are the numbers that they have. They have not been fined since the rule went into effect since 2004. Now. Here are the schools most guilty. Kentucky, LSU with their great tradition.
That's embarrassing.
Again, well, no, because they don't know what they're doing. And then Missouri, A&M, and Auburn have all done that. These have not only rushed the field since 2004, but fined. This is not basketball. This is football only.
Yeah, well, I mean, A&M just did it last 2 years ago when they beat Alabama.
Yeah,
so,
David said no, it wasn't Kentucky. That the Tennessee, Georgia was prior to 2004, so that clears that up.
I'm surprised they said Kentucky at first. I'm saying like Vanderbilt. I just wonder when they did it.
I don't know. I'm not sure, but they have. All right, we will. Yeah, Paxton goes, you got to do the Big 12. We'll do that at some point, and even have who had the premature rushing of the field once in the Big 12. Now. When we come back, Blair Kerkhoff on the Kansas-Oklahoma game and also the Big 12 in general. He's going to be a part of the show today. Max Olson, theathletic.com, is on today. We'll have Jason Scheer from Wildcat Authority on their game coming up, which all of a sudden Arizona's a problem in the Pac-12. And Paul's Top 5. Craig's Off the Radar. Our college football picks and a preview of the Big 12 games. This is 365 Sports. I had a consultation today for my dental work moving forward. And I've kind of told you the story along the way that I did not treat my dental work as a priority, and I've paid for it really over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And then have really made a lot of progress in the last couple of years, since 2020, when I started to see Dr. Steve Childress at Stonewood Dental. I'm going to have at some point, the bridge that I have, it's like one time it came loose. Dr. Childress, in some miraculous way, got it back together again, like Humpty Dumpty. But that's still a ticking time bomb for me. So I have to look at a couple of options of what I'm going to do with my front teeth. I can get perhaps implants for my front teeth, the 4. And then there's a thing called hybrid, which is a lot more of the teeth being flipped and changed, but less implants. The cost is high, but I need to get it done. And I had that consultation today with Dr. Scott Warren at Brazos Oral Surgery, with Dr. Steve Childress. Both of them, with what they do, Dr. Steve Childress, in fact, recommends some of his patients to go see Dr. Warren for some serious dental surgical work. Dr. Steve Childress is the one that's put me in position to understand the game plan at Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
During Jeep Adventure Days, Alan Samuels in Waco is celebrating with an incredible line of 2023 models like the Grand Cherokee, Renegade, Wrangler, and Gladiator. Come see what Alan Samuels can offer you and your family and find the Jeep SUV that fits your lifestyle.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Paul Catalina tracking down Blair Kerkhoff from the Kansas City Star on many things that are Kansas and Oklahoma, but also Big 12 football. The pregame that we have coming up on Saturday, where normally we start our pregame about 2 hours away from kickoff, is a little bit of a different time the next couple of weeks based on the programming on local TV. We'll be on 12:30 to 2. No, we'll be, 11:30 to 1 on Saturday. The kickoff for Baylor and Iowa State will be at 2:30. Blair Kerkhoff, the Kansas City Star columnist, has been doing that for a long, long time with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. And Blair, thanks for your time. Your thoughts about what Lance Leipold has done at Kansas and what this specific game Saturday with Oklahoma means for the program?
Yeah, it's a big one for sure. I was around for the beginning of, the beginning and the middle and the end of the tenures of Glenn Mason and Mark Mangino, and what Lance Leipold has done reminds me of that. He, bad first year, in a rebuilding and a reconfiguring of the program, restructuring, and, you take your lumps, but you show some signs of improvement. You don't get blown out as often as you used to. And then year two, which was true for Mason and Mangino, and it was true last year for Leipold, make strides that are like, wow. I mean, we haven't seen this in a long time. And, that's what happened with Kansas last year when they went to the bowl game. Now he's in year three, Lance Leipold is, and got the team, in a pretty good position. They're thinking bowl game for a second straight year and even a little bit beyond that. So, it's he's got, they've got the games sold out this weekend and in Oklahoma, and they've had a few sellouts this year. So, basketball practice has started, and people are just putting that on hold for a little while. Kansas fans are, and a little football to watch. So we'll see what happens Saturday.
What would you say is the next step for him in the coming year or so to go past where Kansas is the good story and where they're legitimately feared?
That's a good question. The first step in that direction, I think a Kansas fan will tell you, is to beat Kansas State. And Kansas State has won, I think, 13 straight in the series. So it's been just an embarrassment for the Jayhawks. So once they get past K-State, and look, in those years, Kansas State, the better team. I think Kansas State was favored in all of those games. So Kansas State, the better team, and held serve and did what it was supposed to do. So in that time, Kansas has just tried to just win at state, just be the better program in the state. And I think once they get there, if that's the level where Kansas can reach, well, then I think they can feel ready to beat, the programs in the conference that have been, drubbing, programs of similar revenue status that have been drubbing them over the years. The Iowa States, the Baylors, the Oklahoma States, the Wildcats, of course, TCU, Texas Tech, just been handling Kansas. They need to get on a more even playing surface with those programs for the Kansas fans to feel good about themselves. And look, be in a bowl game every year. I don't think there's any reason why a major college football program can't be in a bowl game every year, the way you can control scheduling. And at least 6 wins a year should be an objective for Kansas.
Blair, how's the Jalen Daniels situation just kind of been felt up there? Obviously, Jason Bean, about as sturdy of a backup quarterback as you could find in the entire country. No lack of experience there, but obviously, that was a big part of the hype coming in was Jalen Daniels' return. So what's that just sort of been like in terms of the way it's discussed and the impact that's had on their season?
Yeah, he was preseason Offensive Player of the Year in the Big 12, and a lot of expectations for him coming into this season after missing half a season last year with an injury, and now he's missed the last couple of games with the back injury, and I don't think he's going to play Saturday against the Sooners. So it'll be Jason Bean, and you're right. Jason Bean is absolutely a capable quarterback and would start at a lot of places in FBS. But there's a difference between Bean and Jalen Daniels, and against really good competition, you want to have Jalen Daniels back there if you're Kansas, and I don't think it's going to happen this week. So Bean has put up some big numbers. He had the 5 touchdown passes against Oklahoma State, and the passing offense looked great. But he threw 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter. One was tipped, but he threw 2, and that ultimately got Kansas State beat in Stillwater. Jalen Daniels is just a difference-making quarterback, and I just a back is a tricky injury, that's for sure. But it just I was thinking he'd be back for this game after missing a couple weeks, but it just doesn't look like it's going to be the case.
Blair, I know that it's in the Big Ten, but it's still a huge story with what's happening with Michigan. What are your thoughts on the allegations and what, in fact, I just saw something else that came down that the NCAA is actually interviewing and has been talking to some of the staff at Michigan under Jim Harbaugh?
My sense is, and I don't know this for a fact, which means I haven't asked other coaches about this, but I've just been under the impression that people steal signs. It happens. It happens in every sport at every level. It happens more in college football because you don't have the helmet communication with the coach the way you do in high school and in the NFL. So there's a little bit more sign stealing going on, but a lot of programs, a lot of teams do it. What's different about this is the level of, and I'm using air quotes here, sophistication that Michigan used, the elaborate schemes that Michigan used to do it. And what has to be part of any conversation here is Michigan has portrayed itself as, the best of the best when it comes to playing by the rules. And they don't cheat at Michigan. And even Jim Harbaugh went on told a reporter since he's been at Michigan that, look, the SEC cheats. No, we don't cheat. Well, yeah, you do, right? You cheat. And this is how you do it. And others may be doing it. And, I found it interesting this week when with coaches at press conferences all being asked about it and, a lot of them really not wanting to say a whole lot about it. And I think it's because they know that they do it. They just haven't done it to the level that it's happening at Michigan. And you're right, the NCAA is going to get involved. I think the Big Ten office is going to get involved. And we're in a little bit of uncharted territory here, having this type of thing happen in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the season to a team that I think we all believe to get to the college football playoff. So it'll be fascinating to see how this unfolds.
Yeah, Blair, you listen to people talk about it, and I think they just don't want to explain how they actually steal the signs, which is legal. I mean, if you do it the right way, but they also want to be wary of, like, is there a coach on their staff that's like actually gone to the Connor Stallions thing and they're negligent of it? I know there's so many different weird tentacles to this, but the biggest one is the NCAA is not really going to do anything about it. I mean, look, you cover Kansas. It took 6 years to figure that out, and the FBI gave them like a really long head start.
You know, I thought about the Kansas thing in relation to what's going on at Michigan. You know, what happened with Kansas when as it unfolded in the early years, it started in 2017. But it was established early on that the NCAA wouldn't investigate Kansas. This would all be handled by the IARP, the independent panel that had been empowered by the NCAA. So that happened with other schools as well. The IARP handled Memphis and NC State and a few other of the Adidas basketball schools that were caught up in the scandal. And as those decisions were coming in, they all got off, you know, remarkably. I mean, it's nobody paid any big penalty. Kansas has to vacate some wins and take down a Final Four banner, but they didn't lose scholarships, and their postseason's not in jeopardy. So I think the NCAA was furious at the way the IARP handled it, and I wonder what the mood is at the NCAA. With the perception out there, at least in some circles, that, you know, they got hoodwinked by the IARP and some of these high-profile basketball issues. Are they going to come with their, you know, with fangs on this? Are they going to come, you know, looking to make a statement when it comes to Michigan? I don't know. We'll have to see. But it is an unprecedented thing for this to be happening in the middle of the season to a program like Michigan.
Blair, going back to Kansas, is there much discussion at all about the fact that this is the last matchup with Oklahoma for, well, maybe the foreseeable future, or certainly, and maybe ever for as much as we know?
Yeah, I don't think that got asked this week in Norman or in Lawrence because it's this way, right, for every one of the Texas and the OU opponents, you know, as they play, as they continue. You know, it's funny, the Oklahoma series with Kansas is that goes back into the teens. Oklahoma joined, and Oklahoma State joined the conference that KU was in 1920. So more than 100 years they've been conference members. And look, this is the way of the world. We've all had you know, more than a year to get used to the idea that these two are going to part ways. And I don't think Kansas will be a future Oklahoma football opponent. We know future football opponents are, you know, they're into the 2030s right now. And I know KU and Oklahoma aren't scheduled to play. What Kansas has done in this realm, though, they have found a way to schedule Missouri. So KU and Missouri are going to play a 2-game series later on. K-State and Missouri just finished up a 2-game series. And they're all finding their way back in basketball and other sports. So I think they'll reconnect elsewhere. I just don't think you're going to see I don't think you're going to see it on the gridiron in the next 10 to 15 years.
Blair, if you don't mind, the Big 12, as you know, is about to expand. Kelvin Sampson talked about no Chihuahuas, et cetera, Shih Tzus, but there's a lot of German Shepherds. Just the way that this conference is being put together, what we have this year, and then to add like Arizona, among others, the next year, even though Texas and Oklahoma are leaving, right there where you are, where they host the tournament, and they should every year. It's a great place to host it. They do a great job. Your thoughts about the battering ram of Big 12 basketball?
I love what Big 12 basketball is and what it's going to become. I really do. I am such a big basketball aficionado and love you know, the atmospheres and the, you know, going to games where, you know, where fans just, you know, students get to sit close and make a ton of noise. I'm really looking forward to seeing the new arena at Baylor when it opens up in January. But yeah, you're right. Arizona coming in, and Utah has a great basketball tradition, and we already know about Houston and Cincinnati with their heritage in basketball, and I think it's going to be great. I think the one thing to look for as we go forward is who's going to be playing each other home and away in the future. I think there's an opportunity for Kansas and Baylor, Kansas and Arizona, along with KU, K-State, and for there to be just a continuation of some great rivalries and the addition of others. So 20-game conference schedule coming up and a full 16-team tournament coming up in Kansas City in a couple years. Yeah, I'm all in for basketball.
Blair, I had one note from the chat room. I know we got to go, and you do too. Is it supposed to be kind of nasty? Is it just going to be rainy, sprinkly, or is it going to be worse than that on Saturday?
Cold, wind, and rain on Saturday. Highs in the upper 30s, maybe gets to 50. I'm sitting here now at 75 degrees. We just got through 3 days of rain, about 7 inches in my area. Rain's pushed out, cold weather's coming in, and it is going to be an interesting weather day in Kansas City, in Lawrence, and this area on Saturday. Something to pay attention to. I couldn't tell you who that favors. Maybe Oklahoma, but with the ability. Kansas runs the ball really well.
Yep.
A couple of really nice running backs. So absolutely, it's going to be factored into the equation, the weather on Saturday.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time, Blair. Great stuff with the Kansas City Star. Blair Kerkhoff on KU, and Lance Leipold, their game with Oklahoma on Saturday. And Paxton said, do we need to bring ponchos or whoever? I think that might be a pretty good idea. When we come back, Max Olson, theathletic.com. This is 365 Sports. Coming up tonight, the city of Woodway. That's tonight. The Hallows Groove featuring Suede, 18 plus, 6:30 to 9 o'clock. They're having the Carlene Bright Arboretum for Hallows Groove featuring Suede. Doors open at 6:30. Concert from 7 to 9. It's not too late. You can go online if you want to buy tickets. And again, go to discoverwoodway.com for that. The Whitehall patio inside the Carlene Bright Arboretum is available and open. Live music, food trucks, photo booth, and also so much more. And just around the corner, it's what they do every year, the Cops and Kids Halloween drive-through. This is available Saturday from 6 until 8. The Woodway Public Safety Department, Woodway Family Center for a fun trick-or-treat drive-through throughout the evening or for a couple of hours, 6 until 8 on Saturday. For more information for what they do with some of their concerts and events, go to discoverwoodway.com.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, bars, silver sneakers, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements. New flooring in the weight room floor and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, and many new machines have been added and arriving constantly on the weight room floor. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new ellipticals on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Box, and welcome to Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. A kids club included with your membership, plus sauna, whirlpool, and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com or visit us at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Max Olson, theathletic.com, with us Thursdays in the 4 o'clock hour, joins us with all three, Greg and Paul. I'm David Smoak, and Max has a story pinned at the top of his Twitter feed, who interviewed a Power 5 program, a signal stealer, about the art of the steal and how to avoid getting got. Max, this story has obviously taken over college football. You've done this story. Can you kind of share some of that with us that we haven't read yet from you?
Yeah, no, I'm prepared to reveal that I didn't know. So you guys, it was, I was able to talk to somebody who, it was a little bit serendipitous. It's somebody I already knew in the business, but did not know they were a signal stealer. And, I gave him a call and we got to talking about, kind of how it works. Honestly, I think just partly because this has just dominated, the Michigan mess has really kind of dominated the conversation in college football for the last week. And as someone who barely even understands how offensive signals even work, I think it was just if you ever watch it in a game, it's like very confusing to just the layman, even to somebody who covers college football. I wanted to kind of understand what not only how does signal stealing work, but then from somebody who actually does it and is actually good at it, can you do it just on TV copy and just on coach copy? Or do you actually, need to take some of these steps? And I think it was a very interesting insight in a lot of ways into how it works. This person broke down the Ohio State Michigan clip that went viral this week, and helped me kind of understand what are you seeing there, what's problematic there for Ohio State. I think ultimately, and I talked to other signal stealers since, I think, it's a very challenging role, and it takes a lot of time and labor to figure out, you have to watch a lot of tape to find the patterns and find, try to kind of figure out what the signals are. And you may spend all that time on that work, and then they've changed the signals for the next game. Right. So it's a tricky job. And certainly this person felt like, Michigan, if it's true, what they've been alleged to do, they thought that they called that, next level shit. They thought that was definitely wrong and they should be punished for it. But they also pointed out there's some responsibility on the Big Ten teams they play to change their stuff every week.
Yeah, that's the kind of the whole weird thing about this to me, Max. And by the way, if you've known this guy and didn't know he was a signal stealer, clearly he's a damn good one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you're a good signal stealer, you don't want a reputation for being a good signal stealer, because then people are going to change their stuff every week.
Yeah. That's where Connor Stallion's problem comes in now. He can't get another job doing this because everybody knows, like, whatever staff he goes to, well, that's what he's there for.
And Michigan is going to have a hard time every week going forward here, right? I mean, you already saw it against Michigan State. Michigan State went to huddling on offense just to try to mess with Michigan. I think everyone they play going forward, they're going to know, okay, Michigan's up to stuff. Michigan may have gone to some of our games. We got to be extremely careful.
Yeah. But this does seem after hearing this from your column that you can do this other ways successfully, and B, Michigan is really, really good anyway. It seems like they've gone to unnecessary lengths to do this, which to me makes this not only scandalous but embarrassing.
Yes, I think everyone I've talked to fully I don't think people look at this and say, well, see, Michigan was just tricking us this whole time. Like, I think people know Michigan has a very good football team, very good roster. They definitely had playoff caliber teams. Now, if you've got the information, the intel that they gathered allegedly, based on my conversations with signal stealers, that makes a massive difference. One of them I talked to said compared it to shooting fish in a barrel. If you've got what they are alleged to have, now that doesn't mean that you can still go into games and people change their signals and it doesn't work. You can play fast tempo teams and not be able to steal the signals and make a change fast enough to make a difference. That it doesn't automatically mean you win every game because you've got this stuff. But that is the really tricky thing is like Michigan obviously has put in a lot of they've done a great job in recruiting, right? They've also they have good coaches. They've built a winning program. And so you talk to people and they're kind of baffled about going to these lengths because you don't need to do it to be good at signal stealing, and B, getting caught. I mean, I think there's just aspects of getting caught in this that are just like, stunning to people to put, to buy tickets in your own name and stuff like that. It's just like, what were they thinking?
Max, what was the most interesting outcome last week, in your opinion?
Ooh, I mean, I think I was at Ohio State, Penn State. That was, that was a fight. That was a brawl. And I thought that was, Columbus was awesome. That's a really cool place to watch a game. I was really impressed by Ohio State. I think that's a really good team. I think probably the most interesting was probably still USC against Utah. That was probably the most thrilling finish I saw among a bunch. And, I think it's, if you've watched Lincoln Riley's teams in the Big 12, like in some ways you're kind of not shocked. If you looked at the schedule before the season and all of the really, really tough games they've got that they haven't even played yet in November, you kind of felt like, man, they're going to have to win a lot of really, really big games just to get to the Pac-12 title game and get to the playoff. But still, it's like, man, it's still wild to me that they've kind of blown this opportunity they had with the best player in college football over the last 2 years. And really a credit to Utah and tells you what the Big 12 is in for when they come to town. Man, that for what they did, with a safety playing running back, with the walk-on quarterback in Bryson Barnes, it tells you Kyle Whittingham really is one of the best in the business. And man, what a disappointment from SC.
And now can the Utes run it back another week in a row and take down the Ducks at home? So that right. Plays into them. But what do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I mean, you've got, especially when you've got the emotional high of what Utah just did, and you've got Oregon, coming off a pretty dominant win over Washington State. Last week, the athletic staff, we had a chance to kind of redo our playoff predictions for the rest of the year. And honestly, guys, I have Oregon in the Final Four. Like, I think Oregon is one of the best teams in the country still, despite the loss to Washington. And so, I may be dead wrong about that with how good these games are going to be in that conference race, but I would think this is a big statement game for Oregon to prove that they are still one of the best teams in the country, even though they came up short in Seattle. And I like Oregon, but man, this Utah team is just so tough, so pesky.
Yeah, they just don't blink much. They lose a game, but they don't blink much, and they don't stop who they are, even like what they did a few weeks ago when we saw them. They don't stop being who they are. Right. They don't panic and get out of who they are. Their personality just never seems to change.
No, and I think it's easy to forget or overlook a little bit. I know we've talked about it in the past, but like you take a lot of top 25 teams and you take Cam Rising off out of the picture, and they're not having a winning season. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like that guy is really good. He's one of the best in the Pac-12, one of the best in the country. And so when you add up what they haven't had, and yet they're still finding a way. And yeah, when they played Baylor, it didn't look great at times, right? I mean, they were scrappy and they found a way, but that's a testament to a great coaching staff is you're missing a lot. A lot of things haven't gone right, but your team is still overall getting better over the course of the season.
Max, how many games does Dabo Swinney have to lose to change his mind about the transfer portal and NIL?
I haven't heard him come out and say it yet, but I'm guessing we're there, right?
Close.
They've lost 3 games before November 1st, so I would say he's got to be in as panicky mode as he can get.
No, I probably should do this. You'd have to break down the Clemson roster and say, okay, here's how many seniors they're losing. Here's how many commits they have. It would be hilarious if Dabo's like open to it, but they only have room to like take 5 this year or something like that. But, I think that, and he's certainly not a guy that tries to run guys out of his program. He wants retention and stuff like that. So even if they totally change their mind, I wouldn't be that surprised if they didn't take that many transfers. I mean, ultimately you can do it like Georgia or Alabama or Texas or some of these schools where you kind of just pick up a couple premium guys at positions of need or spots where you need a better starter. I would think, especially if Clemson is just like straight up not really very relevant in the national conversation here in November, like I would think that's going to drive Dabo crazy a little bit. And certainly, if they're not in the ACC title game, like, yeah, you've got to take a look at your whole program. And that is one easy area to reconsider.
We were so close to seeing a monumental upset in Houston last week, but the Longhorns get it done. Not though without some issues moving forward. Max, what's your anticipation level for what we might see from Malik Murphy and what all that means, and the possibility that the big debut of one Arch Manning couldn't be far behind, just depending on how things play out.
Yeah, that was really wild. I think probably previous Texas teams probably would have found a way to lose that Houston game. So I guess you give them some credit for that. But, I think this moment for Texas quarterback situation, I think media and fans and everybody kind of wants to treat this stuff like it's just a very easy, like linear, like succession plan of like, Quinn Ewers is going to have a great year in 23. He's going to go pro. Be a high draft pick, and then those guys compete for the job, and Arch or Malik wins it, and the other guy goes off and starts somewhere else, right? And that's just not how the sport goes, I mean, this injury for Quinn Ewers, like, does that mean he comes back next year? Like, I think that maybe raises that possibility. You don't know for sure how it's going to affect his draft stock. I think Malik Murphy is very talented. I think Steve Sarkisian knows how to drop a plan around him. They'll probably keep it a little bit more simple. They've got some really good running backs that they can lean on. But certainly if he plays well, that's going to affect the succession plan. If he doesn't play well and it's time for Arch Manning, that's going to affect things. And ultimately you got to make a decision. If this team were to go on a run with one of their backup quarterbacks, like, you guys kind of saw it in the Big 12 title game a couple years ago, like who do you play in the conference title game then? You know what I mean? Like, it's a tough decision if they get on a run here with one of these guys and Quinn Ewers is back just in time for December. So, how Sark handles this and how those guys play, it doesn't just affect can they win the Big 12 title. It's going to affect like who's playing for them next year.
Max, if you don't mind, one more question on the Big 12. There was this Oklahoma, Texas probably meet again. I don't see that separation like we did right after they played. With what UCF took Oklahoma to the wire, what Houston and Texas, and now UT with Ewers, even though they might be fine. K-State seems to have turned the corner, and they're kind of battering people. Iowa State, I think we ran out of time. It's kind of like a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine. I know. Well, if he answers, we'll get him back on. If not,
all right.
Max, do you feel like there's as much of a gap as there appeared to be with Texas and OU maybe on a collision course in December with what has happened to them or where they are and what other teams are starting to do to turn the corner?
I'm so sorry. I lost you there. What's the question?
With Texas and OU after they played, there was a common thought, okay, they're going to play again. But we've seen a little bit of weaknesses, now injuries, and Kansas State seems to kind of have their thing together. Oklahoma State's on this run. Heck, Iowa State's on a pretty good run. Do you feel like that gap between Texas, OU, and everybody else is shortened and narrowed quite a bit?
I do. Yeah, I think if you take Quinn Ewers out of the picture here, is it possible that Texas can lose 2 Big 12 games? Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. Might even happen this week. We'll see. I think that there's quite a few teams that are in the mix here. I don't know. I would almost be a little surprised if Oklahoma ran the table too in conference play. Mm-hmm. That would be extremely impressive if they did, but I'd be a little bit surprised. So yeah, I think if you're Iowa State, which will shock people, but I think if you're Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, you're all 3-1 right now. You're kind of feeling like we're in this thing, and it's not impossible that you could string together some wins here and be really relevant in that conversation. And I think even the next tier down, some of the 2-2 teams are definitely not dead yet. Like, I think I get it from the talent standpoint and from how good Red River was that you feel like those are the class of the conference. But as the Ewers injury shows you, like, weird stuff's going to happen.
Max, Grippo's barbecue flavored potato chips. You took those from Ohio and sent them to Ari?
Yeah, I'm a good friend like that. And you know what? Marvin Harrison Jr. had his own brand of Grippo's barbecue chips out there. They were hot honey barbecue. They were unbelievable. So I'm not saying that I'm going to give him my Heisman vote because of that, but it's a factor.
Hey, look, Max, if you come down to it's Marvin Harrison 1 and somebody else 1A, I say the guy with the good chips.
Yeah. I mean,
right? Well, here's the thing. You know, Luther Burton at Missouri also has a bag of chips. So if it comes down to those two, I'm going to have to go out and drive down to Missouri and get some Luther Burton chips.
Well, I will not be bought by that. But if there's any kind of ice cream, then perhaps that might do it.
Listen,
ice cream will do it. Okay,
that's why
good
Max
to know.
is big time. Yeah, because he goes the extra mile.
Yeah, we need to just communicate that to like Michael Penix or one of these guys. That, hey, if you can get some ice cream going, Smokey's interested.
I'm glad I don't have to vote this week, although it always kind of goes up and down because it's been kind of fun to watch these guys have their say. Thank you, Max. Appreciate your time as always.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Max Olson, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. Now, when we come back, our college football picks, 5 very competitive or should-be games, where we are, and also let's look ahead to the Big 12 weekend, and we start to break down those games too. And this is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, steel, metal, heavy-duty product that builds things with. You build things with. For those who do this for a living, contractors, to those that might want to try to put something together slowly, surely, and methodically, perhaps you're going to put together your own metal building. And if you want to do that yourself, if you have a pretty nice amount of space, a ranch or a large yard, they can help you with that. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with the brand new location, opened up back in December of last year, a 2,500 square foot showroom. They're bigger, better, faster, stronger. Their delivery and or your pickup, so much more efficient, and it was already pretty good. But their old location now, it's gone. So the 18-wheelers, haulers, trailers, pickup trucks, whatever you have, there are many more opportunities to get what you need, get out of there, and including the different lengths of what you need that's cut for what you are trying to build, and that's great too. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, the Pioneer boys since 1943 on Loop 340 east of 84, on Loop 340, and Highway 6 east of I-35 in Waco.
The right call can make all the difference on and off the field. I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. When it's time for a new car, truck, or SUV, Bird Colgin Ford is the right call. Come check out our award-winning lineup of best-selling models in their class, like the Mustang, Explorer, Expedition, F-150, and Super Duty. Make the right call for your next vehicle at Bird Colgin Ford. Bird Colgin Ford proudly supports Baylor Athletics. Sic 'em Bears.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The Butcher Shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
I got another picture sent to me by one of our viewers. We'll get to it later in the show, Phil Venzer, on yet another one of the Connor Stallions' seats at a game, studying or getting whatever he could at Tennessee. We'll have that later in the show. I kind of enjoy these pictures in a crazy way. Now, here we go. Here is the big board. Our top 5 picks. These are picks. If you want to play along with us, we'd love for you to do that. But here are the 5 games this week, and there's a little bit of difference, but not a lot. But Craig Smoak continues to lead by 1. Emory is now 3 back. And then Garrett and Paul are under 500.
Yeah, well, I was under 500 last week, and I made some – we both made gains. Garrett was 4-1. I was 3-2. So all my goal is straight out for the rest of the season is winning records. That's all I want is a winning record.
Chip away. Win 3.
Just win.
Just win 2 out of 3 in a series. Keep winning.
I can't worry about what all the rest of you guys do. I have to worry about me, you know. I can't react. I just have to pick what I think is going to happen. I'm at a bit, and so is Garrett. We are at a bit of a disadvantage in that we make these picks at about 1:45 on Thursday, and then you guys can come in and change your mind, which I'm fine with, but I do have to keep that in mind to really break, really be confident in my picks, knowing that you guys can adapt a little. You have a little bit more time to adapt than I do. I'm not complaining.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. I think I actually sent Levi my picks pretty early today.
Yeah, but you can adapt. It's fine.
I really did.
I made the choice.
All right.
I'm the one who's trying to
Craig
do it for
is on
Yuck Yucks.
fire. He's gone 8-2 the last couple of weeks, whatever it might be. Here we go. Arizona is a problem, but nobody on the committee at least thinks that they'll beat Oregon State.
No, I think it's going to be a fun game. I really have enjoyed the little bit I've watched before I fall asleep because I'm old. And Noah Fafita, but I like what Oregon State has going. They have a real shot to win the Pac-12. I think that is, it's they've been confident and evident to them the whole time, but now that they really are closing on the back half of the season, I think that's what kind of gets it done for them.
Yeah, Oregon State's not a good road team, so I did debate this a little bit, and Arizona's a hot brand right now as far as just the momentum that they're kind of building up now. I don't want to blow it up and to be something that it's not, like they're big Pac-12 contenders or anything, but they're an improving football team, and they have experienced some of that rejuvenation with Fafita replacing Delora. So, I think Arizona's a darling for some this weekend, and I can understand why, given that they're hot and that Oregon State is not who they are at home when they take the road trips. I debate on this a little bit, but I just think Oregon State's a better team, and I have confidence in them being able to go out on the road knowing that they have to play a bit sharper because they haven't had as good of a performance compared to their home slate. I think that they are well aware of where they're positioned right now heading into this final month, and I think they're a little bit better overall. So, I'm going with the Beavers here.
I haven't really seen Arizona. A couple of the games, the one that they took some people to the wire, I have not seen much of them. Jason Scheer, by the way, in about 40 minutes will join us, who covers Arizona. But I like what I see, and I'll take Oregon State. They are just really a pretty damn good football team. All right. The next one, West Virginia, UCF, two teams that are West Virginia, of course, after the devastating loss late to Houston, and then UCF had Oklahoma almost in the coffin for that 1 week, but let them loose. And I will take UCF. That game is, I believe, in Orlando.
Yeah, yes, it is. I'm going to speak for Emory here in that he's probably betting on West Virginia's running game to take advantage of UCF. But John Rice Plumlee just makes this a completely different offense. And even when the defense is struggling, if you put him out there on the field, he changes the game so much, because not only Timmy McClain's a super athletic guy who can do a lot of things, but John Rice Plumlee is just so much more polished than him. And it's that polish that, when you saw him healthy against Oklahoma, kept UCF in it the entire time, and had Oklahoma thinking it was 1-2 point conversion away from going to overtime in that game. So, give me Plumlee, give me UCF in this one. West Virginia's starting to scuffle a little bit. I still doesn't change my mind about the job that Neil Brown has done this year, but I think UCF gets this one.
I just feel like UCF's due. I feel like they got some confidence built in that performance against Oklahoma. Granted, it was off a bye week, so they had a couple of weeks to prepare for that. But West Virginia is losing a little bit of steam. Everybody talks about C.J. Donaldson, though, like he's been having these great performances. He's been okay. Garrett Green's as much of a running threat, if not more of one, than he is at this point. So that's something you definitely look at, is like maybe Donaldson can break out and pair that with Green, and that's WVU at their best potentially on offense, but we haven't seen that all come together just yet. And I like having John Rice Plumlee back. I like that they, like I said, got a little bit of confidence from last week, and this being in Orlando, I think that matters too. I do. I think that UCF's hungry for a win. They need it, and they got so close to having a huge one last week. Now you've got a team who's sort of limping in a little bit, but man, West Virginia's good, and so they win this game. I'm not going to be surprised by that in the slightest, but I lean UCF here.
All right, I do too. Garrett?
Yeah, as far as this, I'm kind of with Craig on that. I like the bounce house. I think the Knights have been looking for that signature win at home. John Rice Plumlee's definitely the X factor. West Virginia's just kind of been reeling as of late, and I think that's going to continue as they head into this week. I think they still find a way to get into a bowl game, but they're not going to. I have a good feeling that UCS got it.
All right, there we go. Now, this game here, this is the one I struggle with, a lot with Tennessee and Kentucky. Kentucky's now lost a couple of games. They're still pretty good. And Tennessee, of course, lost to Alabama, got blown out not blown out, but they really struggled in the second half against Bama. All three of us here on the set took Tennessee. Garrett, you're leaning towards the Wildcats.
I have a personal rule that if a team played Bama the week prior, I'm not picking them the next week. I think when you play Alabama, especially when you go into Tuscaloosa, you leave so much energy and just everything on the field that carries over the next week. That being the case, I think Kentucky wins in an ugly game.
Okay.
I don't think it's good. Like, this is not going to be one of the ones that football scholars sit and watch down and go, oh my gosh, look at these two glorious offenses and these quarterbacks. My God, they should stop playing football right now because it'll never get prettier than this. I think
this is the perfect game.
Yeah, that's it. No, there's nothing that can top this. I'm walking away. I think Tennessee wins in a their defense has been pretty salty, which surprised me a lot. Their defense is tough. Now Alabama got over them last week, but part of that was also Alabama's defense making some points happen. So, yeah, I'm going Tennessee here. I'm not supremely confident in this pick because, again, Tennessee's okay. They've been good. They're just not a great powerhouse of a team right now.
Yeah, I think it's a great point that Garrett makes. This game's also in Lexington, for those that feel like home field advantage really sways things. And so I can understand why Kentucky's a good pick to make. I wouldn't feel bad if I decided to go with them. I give a slight advantage to Tennessee. I think they're, like you said, Paul, I think they're a good team. I don't think they're great by any means. I just think they're pretty good, and I think that they'll be able to go into Lexington and just be a little bit better. I wonder what the running games are going to look like here because both of these defenses are pretty stingy against the run. So I'd imagine that Joe Milton and Devin Leary are going to have a fun little battle for the quarterbacks, and how they're both able to succeed through the air will be really interesting. But Kentucky's given up less than 100 yards rushing per game. Tennessee averages over 215 per game, so something's going to have to give there. And so, I don't know. This is an interesting matchup, but I give the slight nod to the Vols.
All right, and I do too. I just feel like that's a really cool little thought process from Garrett.
I've just seen it too many times, man. I've seen too many teams go into Tuscaloosa or just play Bama in general, and the next week just
what do you think
is
more of a and obviously they're not the standard, but they're still really good. They're in the top 10 now. Is it more the mental playing them and getting up for them, getting hyped for them, or the physical toll of the game?
I honestly think it's a combo of both because you exert so much energy thinking about them throughout the week, and then when you get out there, man, that's a different animal than 9 times out of 10 anybody else you're going to see.
All right, and now we go to Duke and Louisville.
I picked Duke because I have faith in their defense. I think they won a game against a lesser team than Louisville, obviously, in NC State without Riley Leonard a few weeks ago. You don't know if he's going to try it out there or not and try to go. He might be able to talk him into it. I doubt it. The offense is going to be way different with Henry Beelan in at quarterback, but I'm just taking Duke in that defense and Mike Elko with a week to prepare for this, ready to go and winning a game against Louisville. I clearly am in the minority on that one, but I waffle back and forth, but I'm leaning Duke in that defense just to kind of, for lack of a better term, Utah this up.
I just can't get past the Riley Leonard uncertainty. Yeah. That's what bothers me is just the fact that we don't know whether he's going to play or not. And obviously you saw a massive difference when he wasn't in that game last week. So I know there's questions about Jawar Jordan for Louisville and whether he can play as well. So it's not like both teams are rolling in completely healthy or one's far healthier than the others. They're both potentially without star guys. But this game's in Louisville. Louisville's also had 2 weeks to prepare for this bad boy, so they should be geared up. They score points. Jack Plummer can turn the ball over a little bit too much, so I do think Duke's defense has an in here if they can play strong, but I just don't know where the points are coming from. That's the part for me that's hard to overlook. I think Louisville can play well against the run, so, give me the Cardinals at home and also with a couple of weeks to prepare.
Garrett and Emery, all four. Craig and I all pick Louisville. Again, at the game at home, I think if it was on the road at Duke, I would most likely take the Blue Devils. And then you have another Pac-12 showdown. There's a bunch of them. Utah, and they're at home against Oregon, which, again, Utah's just found a way to win. That's who they are. This is their MO. That's who they are. Oregon, though, has so much, man, and you wonder if Utah has enough defense to try to muddy it up and enough points to score. All of us except Emery, we take the Ducks.
And to me, the difference in this game is Bo Nix versus Bryson Barnes. I think that's what is the great separator here. Now, Emery's pick is not that bold. I mean, Utah winning at home and
picking Utah at this point in the Pac-12 game is not a super reach by any means.
Yeah, exactly. But I did want to throw this out. So this morning, scrolling through things, college football wise, I saw this column and it said Urban Meyer says who he thinks is the best coach in the country. And you guys know I don't think highly of him, but I was curious to see what he was going to say, what he said in the interview, and he said Kyle Whittingham, because of what he's done, is the best college coach in the country. And I don't totally disagree with it, although I did find it ironic that it is some way a way for Urban Meyer to compliment himself because Kyle Whittingham did used to work for him. But Kyle Whittingham has figured out a way through here in this conference where he shouldn't have a way through. It should have been the minute that they didn't have Cam Rising and the conference season started, whether they knew they were getting him back at some point or not, it would have been over for most teams, and he's found a way through. And that is ridiculously impressive.
Yeah, that was a great win last weekend. It also, in some way, shouldn't have happened. Bear Alexander doesn't have one of the dumbest penalties I've ever seen. Then that game's probably over, and USC is not the story that we're talking about this week the way that we're talking about them. We're not talking about Lincoln Riley ducking, and was he going to do NFL interviews again behind the scenes, or is he going to interview another college? Because, when he was at Oklahoma, he suddenly disappeared. Next thing you know, by the end of the year, he was already sitting there with a job lined up. So, no, he's got pneumonia. That's all there is to it. But they were this close to celebrating a very huge win at home to Utah. And I don't think that all translates week to week necessarily, but I think Oregon's way better than USC in basically every way. And so, Utah at home is going to be tough. They're so stingy against the run, and they just have that grit about them. I don't think it's a reach to sit there and pick them, but I just think Oregon's a better overall team, just more explosive, and I feel like in a close game they have that little extra juice that USC doesn't necessarily have, or there's a smarter football team. And so give me the Ducks in what should be a great game.
You know what that Bear Alexander play reminded me of? It took me a second. But I was like, man, who else has committed a dumb penalty like that?
The guy that threw a shoe at somebody?
That one?
That was stupid. Yeah.
It was also – so you remember the last time that A&M played Texas?
Yeah.
Johnny Jolly hit Case McCoy so far out of bounds they could have gotten a drink of water together. And that's what set them up for that field goal, was that if he had just let Case McCoy run out of bounds, the next play is 4th down and 8 or something, and A&M has a legit opportunity to get a big time. Case McCoy was not his brother when it came to whipping the ball around the field.
Nope.
But Johnny Jolly, it was 4 steps out of bounds, just drilled him. And Case McCoy popped up thrilled because it was 1st and 10 Texas, and now they could go win the game.
You're right. And I thought there might have been, I believe, a face mask call or pass interference on that last drive, too. And one knucklehead play leads to another. And as you mentioned, Texas wins 27-25. All right, a couple of other college football notes, and then Craig, this is from just recently. Here's Barrett Solly on Connor Stallion's seats when he was trying to scout Georgia, Tennessee back prior to when they played in the national semifinals in 2021. I love these things.
What I love about them is that I promise you that there are – they clearly don't sell them anymore, but there was a time at Tennessee when they're like, yo, no, that you can buy that ticket.
Oh, yeah.
You can buy that ticket. And now they don't because the internet exists, and somebody can be like, I paid $84 for this. Bleep you, So, they don't want to deal with that because then they have to be like, listen, we try to give a fair price and a great viewing experience to all our people. We've invited Kevin back with his family and given him seats on the 50-yard line. Compliments of us. They don't want to deal with that anymore.
All right, 4:39. Craig, you ready for Off the Radar when we come back? Craig,
yeah, we're going to talk the Big 12 games too.
Well, let's do that now. All right, so Garrett, I had thrown that out to you back earlier in the week. We could have done that a little bit. Well, no, we have time because the next 5 o'clock hour, we're pretty much booked up as well. Let's start with Oklahoma, Kansas, the first game, along with 2 other 11 o'clock games on Fox. I think I'm going to take Oklahoma. I think this is 40-35. Go ahead and leave that up a little bit, Garrett, if you don't mind. What do you think the over-under? How many points will be scored in this game?
I think
70.
I think a lot. Although Oklahoma's defense is good. They could lower that a little bit. I'm picking Oklahoma. If Jalen Daniels is in this game, I would maybe even lean to picking Kansas. But I think like what Craig said earlier is that they got a scare last week. This is a team that can legitimately start to smell the finish line here as we get into November. And dropping a game after you almost did would just be a terrible look for the committee, especially then you're going to have an opportunity to, if you do still make it to the Big 12 title game, you've got one loss, and then you could have two losses and find yourself, maybe even out of the New Year's Six. So,
all right, Craig,
the over/under is 65.5. So
there you go.
It's right
40,
there.
Yeah, okay.
And so I think Oklahoma bounces back after the close call to UCF. I think that wakes them up a little bit. It's less self-inflicted wounds, although. I mean, the kicking game's shaky. The lack of explosiveness in the running game's an issue at times, and they give up a big play on defense a little too often, and that's what bit them last week. So clean those areas up as best you can, and I think that they're set up really nicely for this stretch run. But, yeah, I mean, going into Lawrence, and there's a lot of, talk with the sellout crowd and Big Noon and all of that, but this would scare me a lot more if Jalen Daniels was at quarterback, but I don't think this is a cakewalk for Oklahoma. I'll still take them, though.
All right, Houston coming off that. They had everything they could with Texas and just didn't quite get it done at a team in Kansas State that seems like they kind of have their mojo back. I'm taking Oklahoma. I've already said that in that first one.
I'll take I think Houston might play a little bit better, but Kansas State's, just a better team. Kansas
State's probably going to roll here. I feel for Houston. That was just, what if last week, right? I mean, what if? I'm always going to wonder for them about that, what that would have been like to celebrate a win over Texas at home. But, yeah, K-State is they're getting their championship ducks in a row to defend that title. And, man, that was an impressive performance last week. How do they keep balancing the quarterback situation? Well, they balanced it really well last week. So, let's see how they kind of, tweak that some more this week. Do we see more Will Howard? Do we see more Avery Johnson? Is it 50-50? What does that look like? But, yeah, they're way better than Houston, so K-State all the way.
We've already picked that West Virginia-UCF game. That's also an 11 o'clock kick on FS1. 2:30, Baylor plays, BYU plays. Go ahead.
I was going to say this about West Virginia they are sliding a little bit, but their games are close. I mean, they're playing tough, and they've had a couple of bad outcomes, so it's not like they're getting blown out or anything. But, yeah, I still like UCF at home.
Yeah, they're gonna make this into a street fight, I think, if they can. BYU at Texas. There is no Taysom Hill. BYU is obviously not bad, but I think on the road at UT, ABC 2:30, I'll take Texas even with what's going on with the quarterback issue. But I think Malik Murphy, they'll put up a big Sark will kind of protect him, but I think they'll be more aggressive than a lot of people think with him and what he can do with his arm.
There might be some growing pains. I think they'll be fine, though. I mean, he's super athletic. I think they'll find ways to use him that work, and we'll see. He would have to be really, really bad and really in over his head for me to pick BYU in this game, especially given the fact that, so say they need to calm him down, just hand the ball off to Jonathan Brooks 6 or 7 times in a row and take a deep breath and then see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think Texas is going to turn the ball over 5 times with their young quarterback, unlike Texas Tech. And, being at home, BYU, so much of their juice does come from playing at home. I think they are a different team when they've got that backing in Provo, particularly at night. So Saturday afternoon in Austin, I think that takes some of the sting out of their chances. And I think Texas is a way better team. I think BYU is a fine team, but I don't love really any particular part about the team, you know what I mean? Whereas with Texas, I can go, they've got this guy or that guy or this guy. With BYU, it's a little bit harder to kind of find those things to cling on to in this matchup. So, yeah, give me Texas.
I take Texas. Iowa State at Baylor. We have this up on the site that will come out, I guess, tomorrow morning that we all said. I think about 9 out of every 10. I believe about 10 out of 12 people that I saw are picking Iowa State in this game. They've had an off week. They blew out Cincinnati on the road by 20, and I take the Cyclones to beat Baylor on Saturday.
I think the off week matters. I do. I don't know that Iowa State's just supremely better than Baylor. If they were coming off of a close game last week, then maybe I'd think otherwise. But I like I said a couple weeks ago, I'm not giving Baylor the benefit of the doubt. They're not good at home. The win last week was fun. I mean, just to get a win and change the pace of what we'd kind of been talking about for what seemed like the entire season, really. But that was also one where at the end of the game, there was Cincinnati's driving with a chance to go win the game, and they had a couple things bounce their way early. If not for that, how does that game go? So yeah, I'm still not sold on them being able to put it all together. So give me Iowa State, who have a little bit more confidence in being able to do so.
Iowa State's just a lot more fundamentally sound in the basics of football, especially up front, than Baylor is. Iowa State's good up front. Baylor cannot make that claim, although they did manage their way through last week against Cincinnati, who I know we're going to talk about in a second, who's just not a good team. game. That was two bad teams playing each other. Baylor got the break in that game that flipped it, which was the weird thing that happened on the kickoff return. So if that doesn't happen, who knows what happens in Cincinnati. So I don't know if Baylor can rely on something like that happening against Iowa State. I mean, if it does, great. But I think Iowa State's just better.
Yeah, I think they're just playing better. And Baylor, maybe the nastiness that they've tried to at least install with the change of the offensive line with Colton Price and moving Behrens to the left guard, perhaps that is something that might open up a better and more volatile or violent running game. Who knows? All right. Cincinnati, after what they've done lately, they're now kind of in a free fall against a team that's going the opposite direction with a bullet that heads upwards in Oklahoma State.
Ollie Gordon runs for 475 yards.
No, Cincinnati's got a bit of a better run defense. But, he's been on fire. Huge game last week, most of it in the fourth quarter. At least 3 of the 4 scores were, and over 100 yards of the nearly 300 yards were in the fourth quarter against West Virginia, which really just was a knife driven into the Mountaineers late in that game. But, I think that Cincinnati's got, some respectable things about their defense that, Oklahoma State will have to prepare for, but they don't have the juice on offense right now. They're going to have to run the football and just hope Emory Jones protects it, which is the theme every week. But I just think Oklahoma State's riding a rocket ship right now, and it's going to be tough to slow down Ollie Gordon. If Cincinnati can stuff him though somehow and make Alan Bowman have to go throw the Cowboys to a victory, that could get interesting. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do that, throughout that game in Stillwater too. So give me the hot hand in the Cowboys, who I just think are a better team in general.
All right, Craig's Off the Radar is coming up next, and we check in with Jason Scheer on Arizona. That's coming up at 5:10. Mickey Spagnola on the Cowboys back in action against the Rams, and then Paul's Top 5, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on. The people that I've counted on over the years to get my vehicle serviced and get it worked on as well when the time has come. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that it is a great experience heading on over to Richard Carr and getting your car, truck, or SUV fixed up. And right now they've got offers on new vehicles like the Buicks, the perfect combo of first-class luxury and value like no other SUV right now, ranked #1 overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers. Buick offers amazing value, and you can save $5,000 right now on a new full-size 2023 Buick Enclave, or save $4,000 on the 2023 midsize Buick Envisions, plus also save an additional $500 if you are military or first responders. And that's just one of the many deals they have as far as the new vehicles go. Right now, there's a lot of construction out on Highway 6 in front of the dealership, and so they're trying harder to make it easier to go and find the new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac. So check out their deals right now on the Envisions and the Enclaves. They've also got great deals right now going on GMC Sierras, and if you're military or first responder, you can again save an additional $500, but contact the dealership for more details as far as that goes. And if you're just looking to trade your vehicle, they also have a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks available as well, with a financing goal of 100% credit approval and saying yes when others say no. Or if you're just looking to get your car fixed up, their award-winning service department is also standing by and right now offering a price match guarantee on the lowest price comparable tires in town. So service your car or truck with the people you can count on at Richard Carr, in business for over 24 years in Central Texas, run by proud Central Texans and proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports, Tuesdays and Thursdays at around 4:45. Just taking a look at a grab bag of stories from around the sports world, and it all depends on the news cycle or what little tidbits I can find to come up with this segment twice a week, I suppose. But a little dabble of some pro sports and a little bit of college sports in this Thursday edition of the Off the Radar grab bag. And I want to start off with a sad story out of Northwestern State, as they have announced that they have, and this isn't the saddest part of the story, but the university has announced that it has canceled the remainder of their 2023 football season, and this comes on the heels of the death of a player. They've also announced that their head coach has stepped down effective immediately. Head coach Brad Laird resigning from Northwestern State, according to the university president. And with that, the Demons cancel the remaining season. This follows on the heels of the killing of defensive back Ronnie Caldwell here earlier this month. It said in a statement, we initially thought that continuing with the football season would be a way to honor Ronnie and help our team find solace. However, we've come to understand that the pain and grief within our team runs too deep. In light of this, we have made the difficult decision to cancel the remainder of the 2023 football season. Additionally, we have accepted Brad Laird's resignation as head football coach, who was profoundly affected by the tragedy and has expressed a desire to step away from the program, and they thanked him for his service, and he's also an alum there as well. But now they will begin a search for a new football coach immediately, and in the time being, assistant head coach and defensive coordinator Weston Glazer will be the interim head coach. As they said, some events are bigger than football, and so after that very sad incident, they are deciding to go ahead and cancel. And Caldwell, it's a matter of mental health, I guess that they're saying, and you could tell by those statements. But they said he was a beloved member of the community. He was apparently killed by a roommate, and so. In the meantime, after he had been injured during this time and was still around the team and helping out as like a volunteer coach, just coaching where he could and helping out where he could while he was hurt, helping out with the defensive backs. It remains under investigation. But the article that I read earlier today was indicating it was his roommate that had killed him. So they're still looking through the details of all of that. But there was an arrest of said roommate, a young man named Josh McIntosh, there in Nacogdoches. Possession of firearm and in the presence of a controlled substance was the charge that he was hit with. So still looking into it, but that obviously you're like, that's weird, but we'll see on that. Let the legal ease and the authorities handle that. But just a sad situation there for the Northwestern State community.
Well, as an SFA guy, that was the battle of Chief Caddo. It's a huge, long-time rivalry, and I really don't know what the update is now that everyone's changed conferences so many times, but that's unfortunate to close out the year. And I kept waiting. What was the reason for the death? And, of course, they're doing that investigation. I did not realize it could have been that he was killed by his roommate.
Well, I mean, that's putting two and two together. He was arrested, like I said, for other charges. But, he was killed. I mean, he was killed. There was gunshots in the area. Police had arrived, and they found him suffering from several gunshot wounds. He was pronounced dead by the coroner's office from said gunshot wound injuries. So really sad deal. Rest in peace, Ronnie Caldwell, and good luck to all those in the Northwestern State community as they cancel the rest of the season and now go looking for a new head coach. But that just sounds so profoundly sad, that entire deal, and so understandable that football is not the most important thing right now. Meanwhile, a couple of other notes in college football really just have to do with tonight's games, as we ran through a lot of the other stuff. But later on this evening, going to have some ACC action. Syracuse 4-3 on the year, looking for their first conference win on the road at Virginia Tech. That starts at 6:30 on ESPN. The Hokies now 3-4, but 2-1 in the ACC, and Kyron Drones has some bright spots there for Virginia Tech. So they're looking to now be 3-1 in the ACC, which would be great. But at the same time, the Orange looking for their first conference win. Also at 6:30 over on ESPN. 2, you'll have Georgia State, Georgia Southern, and some Fun Belt action. State 6-1 overall, 3-1 in conference play. Georgia Southern 5-2 overall, 2-1 in conference play. So ought to be a great game there. So a couple of college football games heading your way later on tonight. Y'all dabble much in the weeknight games? I mean, I know we're not like Sickos Committee and every ounce of college football.
State last night. Yeah,
I didn't watch any of it last night, but I'm a little interested in Syracuse and Virginia Tech. Clearly, look, Kyron Jones has been good for them. Look, their only losses in conferences to FSU.
That's why you brought it up.
Yeah, but also like Syracuse, I'm kind of curious about them because they started out well, but they got exposed once the conference season started. And I don't know what Syracuse did to Jim Phillips, but it seems like it's every year they let them kind of like get a head of steam going, and then they play the 3 best teams in the conference back to back to back. It's like, we wanted you to feel better about yourself when you got your ass handed to you 3 weeks in a row, but they're just how it's been, and so then it's kind of put them in a funk. So we'll see. I'm happy for Kyron Drones. He's a remarkable athlete. I think when he was here, he was an athlete. He just wasn't a quarterback yet, and he's still probably in that a little bit at Virginia Tech, but they're making him into a quarterback.
Yeah, he's playing okay, and they've got some things to build off of there. That was a big win for them over Wake. They've had their handful of losses, though, but at least coming off of a win there against the Demon Deacons. And you're right, for Syracuse, it was a 4-0 start, and then they ran into Clemson, and then they ran into North Carolina, and then they ran into Florida State. And so now they travel to Blacksburg later on tonight trying to break that losing streak. But, got a little college football action, and I don't know if you saw it last night. We just talked about you hadn't seen it, but Jacksonville State did keep the good times rolling. They're now 7-2. They got a big win over FIU, 41-16. But Sam Houston, that's why I bring up last night, another loss, 37-34 to UTEP down in Huntsville, and a game where they had their first win at this level. Like, it was there, and they get outscored 17-7 in the final period and lose on a game-winning field goal from Buzz Flabiano, which sounds like an entirely made-up name. But, UTEP with the game-winning field goal as time was waning there. And so Sam Houston now 0-8 and 0-5 in conference play.
You know what? We've had Coach Keeler on the show, and they redshirted a bunch of players last year because that season, it counted because we had Kavion Gaither, who played ball here at Conley and Waco, but they redshirted a lot of guys because they wanted him to be available for this year. And they've lost 4 games like almost like Nebraska did over that
they've had some
stretch.
close
Crazy things that have happened that have not been able to finish off the game. So I hate it for them because I thought they would be pretty
You're
competitive.
an SFA guy. You love it. You love that they're 0-8, don't you?
No, I like, there was a time when I was immature and I hated Sam Houston State like maybe tomorrow. But I do hate it for them because they're trying to step up into big boy football.
And look, they lost to BYU 14-0. That first game in the FBS level. Then 13-3 to an undefeated Air Force team. 38-7, Houston rolled past them. 35-28 to Jacksonville State.
There was something that happened late in that game.
Yeah, 21-16 at Liberty, who's undefeated, by the way. New Mexico State, 27-13. FIU 2 weeks ago, 33-27, or last week, and then 37-34 last night. So they just can't win close games. So if Casey Keeler gets that flipped, then you could probably see a much better Sam Houston team in just a year.
Yeah, they're going to have to definitely retool in the offseason, but they've had some brutal losses, and last night was just it was like you've already been kicked in the uprights a few times, and last night was just the latest, and that one had to hurt pretty bad. But yeah, Liberty on top of CUSA right now at 6-0, Sam Houston at the bottom now at 0-5 in conference play. So some games last night, some games coming up later on tonight. And I know we're kind of short on time, right? So just a couple more things here.
You're good.
But later on this evening, as well as in addition to a couple of college football games, the NBA regular season has started as well. But NFL Thursday night action, the 3-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road against the 4-3 Buffalo Bills, 7:15 the kickoff Central Time over on Amazon. Any thoughts on Bucks at the Bills for either one of you?
What the hell's going on with Buffalo? Josh Allen looks normal. He still puts up big numbers.
Terrell Bernard, though, Baylor great.
Pedestrian.
Terrell Bernard, Baylor great, is having a heck of a year, though.
Yeah,
he's playing really, really well.
Yeah, they're not using it like if you read, because I like to read the NFL beat writers, and the complaints from the fans that they have to respond to is the fans don't feel that Ken Dorsey is using all the weapons at his disposal, that he kind of gets locked into Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. And, Dawson Knox is out, so now they have to use Dalton Kincaid, which when he's played, or made plays, they've been really good plays. They might need something else. I would not be surprised to see them get in the trade market for a guy like a Hunter Renfrow.
I was going to say, that's the big rumor is about Hunter Renfrow and leaving Las Vegas, and the Bills would be a team that makes sense.
I think that would be a great fit for Josh Allen to have a guy like that. He's different than anything that they have. Get him, and that can be a mutually beneficial situation for everybody involved. And the Bucs on the other side of that coin, look, Baker Mayfield, when he's happy and healthy, plays really well. I don't know if he's really necessarily been that over the course of his career. The Bucs are better than I think a lot of people thought they would be. They still have got some talent left over from those Super Bowl teams. Mike Evans is still there. Chris Godwin's still there. They still have some guys who can make some plays. So we'll see how this one goes. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bucs win it, although I know Baker's a little banged up too.
Yeah, the Bills, at last I looked, they were slightly over touchdown favorites, like 8.5 points, but we will see on that. And, yeah, it'll be interesting to also see what ends up happening with the Hunter Renfrow issue there in Las Vegas, because he does appear like he's very much on the way out there. So the former Clemson star could be in red, white, and blue here pretty soon, or any other number of color combinations. Meanwhile, the Cowboys will be back this weekend, and as they retake the field, and I'm sure you will bring this up with, we got Mickey later on today, right?
Yep.
But DeMarcus Ware will be inducted into the Cowboys Ring of Honor, and every time the Ring of Honor gets brought up, of course, there's always the Jimmy conversation that has to also take place, because people are just not going to let that go, the fact that Jimmy Johnson is not in the Cowboys Ring of Honor. But as they prepare here for home game against the Rams, DeMarcus Ware going into the ROH. Any particular thoughts on DeMarcus Ware, all-time Cowboys great?
Love DeMarcus Ware. He's a great interview as well. We've had him on the show
nice guy.
Many times. Yeah. Great human being. Does a lot. Just outside of football, he and Jason Witten are the only two post Super Bowl era Cowboys that I would. Well, no, now Zach Martin. and Tyron Smith. But they were the only two for a while that I would say I would support for Hall of Fame induction or Ring of Honor induction. Now, those other two have played so well in the offensive line. They've got some other stars maybe that can get there, but he absolutely deserves it. Really wish they just put Jimmy in so everybody could stop talking about it, but you know what's so DeMarcus deserves it. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, DeMarcus Ware deserves it. It shouldn't be taken away the fact that Jimmy still deserves to be in there as well.
They had that fake moment on national TV when Jerry, Jimmy, and Troy Aikman, I guess it was a Monday night game, and Jerry.
It's at the Hall. It was at the induction.
No, this is at a broadcast. I'm almost positive. I know what you're talking about, but Jerry reached out to Jimmy. They're on the same set. It was just fake. It was Jerry getting publicity, and everyone felt good about it. And since that time, it's just disappeared that he was not going to be inducted into the Ring of Honor. He's in the Hall of Fame. He ought to be in the football team that he won Super Bowl's Ring of Honor.
Yeah, we'll see as Jerry gets older if that changes. He doesn't. He's old as it is, but is that something like posthumously that they would do or after Jerry passes? Not posthumously for Jimmy, but.
I think Jerry would do that if something happened to Jimmy.
Yeah,
he'd be like, I guess it's probably time.
Right, yeah. But it's just weird. It's weird that relationship is still as fractured as it appears to be.
That Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin and people like that Jerry would listen to need to kind of intervene more.
Yeah.
And kind of just beg him to do it.
Right.
Because he does respect those voices. And he's just, And Jerry Jones needs to know that, there's no good in taking this to the grave with you, man. You guys were great together. Everyone knows now. Everyone knows that it was both of your faults, that it didn't last for 15 years. It was never going to, but you know what? Guns N' Roses broke up, man, and then now they're back in tour. People can work it out.
Yep, so there you go. DeMarcus Ware will be inducted at halftime coming up this weekend, and that is an exclusive club, so congratulations to him. And just a couple more notes here. Garrett passed along another wrinkle ongoing with the Michigan saga. You may remember that before this whole Harbaugh spying, all that situation, there was the whole to-do with their former assistant and computer crimes. Do you remember that? That just kind of came up and went?
Yeah.
Well, Adam Rittenberg, and I've seen this elsewhere, but Garrett just passed this along. University of Michigan police have confirmed to ESPN that the FBI has joined its investigation of former football assistant Matt Weiss for computer access crimes. The investigation is extensive, ongoing, and is of the utmost priority per the deputy chief. So you wonder where this is all heading, and now we got the FBI involved with a different element of a different story, or is it all related in the end? Is that what we come to find out, or what becomes of that? But, man, what an interesting week for Michigan Wolverines football, to say the least.
I'd forgotten about that guy.
Yeah, but everything's getting dug up now. So now the FBI involved in the investigation into former assistant Matt Weiss for computer access crimes. So stay tuned as far as that goes. And there will be more to talk about, I'm sure, with that. But, yeah, what an interesting few days for that football program. And meanwhile, final thing, tomorrow night, World Series starts in Arlington, Texas. The Rangers taking on the Diamondbacks. And, there's nothing more that I want than a Rangers World Series. I die a happy man, but I know that the Diamondbacks are a very good team. I don't bring this up to make any predictions or anything, but I did see a couple of cool notes on just the pageantry and the festivities that are going to be involved with hosting a World Series. We talked about how the ticket prices are just astronomical.
Yep.
I mean, it's ridiculous how high they are. But they did announce a couple of the first pitches that will be thrown for these first couple of games. Game number 1, President George W. Bush will throw out the first pitch.
With partner and owner, yeah.
Yes, with Pudge Rodriguez as the catcher. So you're going to have George W. throwing to Pudge before Game 1, and then Game 2, Adrian Beltre will throw out the first pitch to Fergie Jenkins ahead of Game 2. So I just thought that was cool to mention. They're bringing back some of the greats in franchise history, and very cool that that'll all be happening here starting tomorrow. So there's a few things off the radar.
So the Hall of Famer came to Texas from Chicago in 1974. He was 25-12. And lost the Cy Young to Oakland's Catfish Hunter, who had other great numbers too. It's one of the best years of a pitcher never to win the Cy Young, but they had a pretty good run. But Oakland back then won 3 straight World Series titles.
Now that Jim Crane crapped all of the Ryan family, is he cool with the Rangers again?
I don't know.
And they've had kind of a whole new administration there. I mean, love to see him there. I'm sure he will be.
They sell his meat.
Yeah.
Don't they at the ballpark?
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing missing. I've seen the Redskins win a Super Bowl 3 times. I've seen Nebraska win 5 national titles, although I may never see another one. And I've not seen the Rangers as close as they were in Game 6 against the Cardinals. That would complete me. And the Spurs in the NBA, but that's like stealing right there with what they've done over the last, 20 years.
Nice Mavericks win over the Spurs last night.
I saw that. Wemby, nice game by Jeremy Sohan. With the former Baylor star. All right, that it, Craig?
Yeah, that's it.
Let you read this one too. This is Lincoln Riley was back at practice today. This came down like in the last 30 minutes from Ryan Abraham.
Lincoln Riley says those were the first 2 practices he's missed in 20 years of coaching because of pneumonia. Said he started to feel sick last Tuesday, and Sunday went tougher than expected. So, yeah, I mean, that explains his absence, and it was just weird timing. I think everybody had a right to kind of raise their eyebrows a little bit and go, that's strange after the loss on Saturday night. But, I said at the time, and we'll reiterate, glad it's nothing too serious. Pneumonia can be serious, as you know all too well, but I'm glad to know that he's healthy enough to be back at practice and it's not something else. But, man, I would not be shocked if, in 2 weeks we hear, there's a secret mission to, whatever NFL franchise is going to be opened up soon. Who is the best candidate for an NFL team to open up right now? I don't even know off the top of my head.
Washington?
Yeah, they are. They are definitely up there.
Raiders and Chicago.
Raiders are, Chicago. Yeah, Chicago. Harbaugh in Chicago is the logical choice since he played there and, all that jazz. But, good for Lincoln Riley, and we'll see what they are able to do moving forward.
If you haven't seen it, if you don't follow him on Twitter, Robert Griffin III did a feature on the Bears' new quarterback who took over.
Tyson
Badgett, and his story from Shepherd University. His dad used to be a world-class champion arm wrestler. Go to his feed. It's a great story. It's 3 to 5 minutes long, but I sat there and watched that last night. It is really, really cool. Sent him a text and said, great job. It has a little bit of that game day type feeling, but it was about the Shepherd University, now Chicago Bears starting quarterback.
Yeah, I saw a piece on him at the draft last year, and it was kind of surprising to me that he wasn't one of those guys like a Cam Ward or a who's the other one that was before Cam Ward, that jumped up to FCS to FBS in the transfer portal.
I see what you're saying.
And did that. So, but he stayed. He was loyal to Shepherd, and now the Bears really like him.
Jason Scheer, Wildcat Authority, on Arizona becoming a thorn in the side of some big boys in the Pac-12 and maybe again this weekend. And this is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza, pizza lovers get it. 5 locations in the Waco area. Bob Mock, the owner, been in the pizza business most of his life and has seen how other businesses have run it and learned that he wanted to run his own. Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America. 5 locations that have opened up recently here in Waco, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, Hewitt, and also in Robinson. You go online, Marco's Pizza with Marcos.com, with all sorts of different discounts on whatever really pizza you want to put together. It is really good, and not just pizza, sandwiches, salads, wings, soft drinks, and, of course, they have pizza bowls, too. If you want pizza, if you've not tried Marco's Pizza, pizza lovers get it, Marcos.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at Baylor.edu/alumni.
Samantha Duvall, Marketing Director for TexasBeefHouse.com. You know all about their great Wagyu beef and product they have. You can go to TexasBeefHouse.com for anything you want to order. But, Samantha, thanks for your time. There's an auction coming up in the month of November. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so November 11th, we're having our first public beef auction. It's going to be here at our ranch in White House, Texas. It's going to be a live auction. You can bid in person, you can bid on the phone, or we'll also have it online. We're auctioning off Wagyu and Angus beef. We'll have 30 to 40 pound bundles. They'll be full of steaks, hamburger, and primals. This is perfect for not only the restaurant owners, but also homeowners.
So if somebody wants to load up your deep freezer with some great product from a place that is just delivering all of the time, with Wagyu from their ranch to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
During Ram Power Days at Allen Samuels, shop our great selection of brand new Ram trucks designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop Ram trucks. Come by and see our large selection today or browse online at AllenSamuelsDCJ.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments and financial advisor Chuck Verno, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, we continue this 5 o'clock hour. Jason Scheer, Wildcat Authority, joining us on 365 Sports. I wanted to have you on a couple of weeks ago, Jason, but Paul and Craig both said, if it's not about realignment, we don't care.
Untrue.
Life is definitely a lot less exciting. Not a bad way, though, now that realignment has quieted down.
No question. Why is Arizona better?
It really, it's defensively, the personnel. I mean, they rebuilt the entire defense, and last year, I'm not exaggerating, it's one of the worst defenses I've seen at Arizona ever. And this year, it's legitimately good, and it's put Arizona in better position to win games.
Jason, Noah Fafita has been a revelation. I know that they felt good about their situation with Jaden DeLara going in, but since Noah Fafita has come in, it's changed things. What was the thing that made him so good so quick?
I think the thing with him is it's his demeanor. Like he's a very calm kid. He played at one of the when he was there, at least he played at one of the better high schools in Southern California against some really, really good competition, and he never the moment's never too big for him. I mean, his first career start was Washington, and then he went to USC, and then he's on the road against Washington State, and he'll probably start this weekend against the number 11 team. And he's always the same guy. He never tries to make this spectacular off the book play. It's the defense is giving me this, that's what I'm going to take. I have a team to worry about as well, and he makes limited mistakes and runs the offense effectively.
Jason, how have they handled just that situation? I mean, with Laura being the guy, I know there was some off-field stuff as well, but is it just pretty known that, hey, it's Fafita's team now, or how's that all sort of being balanced out?
I mean, it's funny because I just got done with the Jetfish presser, and he still won't name the starting quarterback for this weekend, but everybody knows it's Noah Fafita. I mean, it just has to be. He's played too well in his 3 games. The team has rallied behind him. It's just got to be him. And I know that there's probably some gamesmanship going on, and Noah will start on Saturday, and then after that, it'll be obvious who the starter is. But they've handled it well. Jed Fish has a good relationship with Jaden DeLora. He's not going to throw him under the bus at all. He's been very, very careful to compliment DeLora at every chance he gets. But, Noah Fafita pretty much forced his hand with the way that he's performed.
I know Arizona had a 5-star player or someone who had committed that decommitted, but other than that, how has some of this success in Jed Fish the success that they're having and looking at the future with the talent they're trying to bring in with recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps. I think this is a big weekend. They're going to have plenty of visitors on campus. And, you know, they've lost a couple of guys because of NIL or whatever reason. But, you know, Jetfish has recruited well since he's been here. Even when they were 1-11, I mean, Noah Fafita, Tatory McMillan, who's another 5-star wide receiver, who's really good. They committed coming off of a 1-11 season. And Arizona has had a vision they've been able to sell, and eventually, you know, it has to lead to wins. They've recruited well, and the thing that they've done really well is effectively evaluate the transfer portal. I mean, pretty much every guy that they landed from the portal has made an impact on Arizona, and that's not easy to do.
Jason, I know that Jed Fish got kind of tangentially caught up in this Michigan stuff because Connor Stallions, I guess, made the claim that he would help Jed Fish early on in his tenure at Arizona. What did Coach Fish make of all that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've known every coaching staff here for the last, you know, a long time, and I had never heard of Connor Stallions. I think that SI report, he told someone that he was the assistant to the chief of staff, and I've never heard of him before, you know, being related to Arizona. And Jed admitted that he knew him. He was asked today. He's like, yeah, I know him. He actually came to the spring game to watch in 2021. That was the last time they talked. He said that, you know, he's familiar with them. He thought he was a nice guy and all that, but in no way did he help Arizona with anything. And that kind of vibes what I know away, you know, away from the scene. Is, you know, again, like I had never heard of Connor Stallions before the Michigan thing. And he's the guy whose name was never brought up when Jed was building it. There was a lot of admin involved, and most of them are still with the program.
How surprising was the style of that win last week over Washington State?
Yeah, I had picked them to win, but I didn't think it would be like that. I mean, that was very surprising. Just the way, you know, Washington State comes and marches down the field at the opening drive, and you're like, oh, here we go. And then from there on out, it was just completely Arizona. Arizona was able to do whatever they wanted on both sides of the ball. That was probably one of the more complete Arizona football performances that I can remember in a long time.
So Washington, USC, Oregon State, Oregon, Utah are at the top of the league, and then UCLA and Arizona are there at 2-2. Colorado's cooled off. The schedule's gotten more difficult. Washington State's cooled off. Is there anything in particular outside of Arizona's surge that has surprised you either in a positive or negative way around the conference?
You know, not really. I mean, I think Washington being as good as they are is a little surprising. I thought they'd be good, but, you know, they've been really good. And, you know, there's nothing that's been surprising. You know, I think one of the bigger stories is just quarterbacks in the league. I mean, Cam Rising is out. Arizona has to change. ASU can't get a quarterback for multiple weeks. And then you take a look at the top of conference. I mean, even Caleb Williams has struggled the last few weeks. And there's some good quarterbacks in the league, some really good quarterbacks. But I don't think anything surprising. I think the teams that are at the top of the conference are the teams that we expected. Maybe USC not being as good as expected is probably a surprise. But beyond that, it's pretty much, you know, Utah, Oregon, Washington like expected.
Jason, I know you don't cover them, but Arizona State has had a couple of moments. They're still not good yet. What do you think Kenny Dillingham has done, especially when you're going to see like the future recruiting space of Jed Fish versus Kenny Dillingham for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I like Dillingham a lot. You know, he's a really good guy, and I think he has the right attitude. And he realizes, you know, there's guys that, you know, early on before their season, he kicked them off the team because they didn't fit the culture. And he always talks about the process. It's very similar to Jet. They have the same approach that they did earlier on, where it's like, look, I know everyone is results oriented, but this is the process. I mean, they're rebuilding ASU just like Jet was rebuilding Arizona. And there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not a one season deal. And so I think he has the right message, and the guys are still buying in. He's learning a little bit. You know, I think he made some interesting play calls this season, but the key is when you're losing football games to have your team remain bought in, to believe in what you're saying. And to this point, his team absolutely believes in him.
Jason, realignment has not gone away, but it's at least cooled off while the football season has taken precedent. And I know, with it being the swan song of the Pac-12, there's a lot of focus there on the fact that Arizona's got a pretty good football team. But just since we haven't talked to you in a while, what's been sort of the long-lasting after effects and I guess conversation around Arizona of the move coming up next season?
Yeah, I think people are a little bit more excited, and really for basketball fans have always been excited. Now, I mean, the basketball schedule is going to be crazy, but I think for football, part of it is saying, that Arizona fans believe that they could be successful in the Big 12. And that's not a knock on the conference overall, but, you take a look at the schedule that Arizona's played the last few weeks, and it's Washington, USC, and et cetera, and it's like, 4 ranked teams in 4 consecutive weeks. And that's one of the stories of the Pac-12 is generally it's better than it's been, this year than it has in the past. But I think it's turning to excitement. At first there was, a little hesitance about playing new teams and all that. But I think Arizona fans, at least from what I understand and what I've heard, are more excited moving forward. And then again, basketball, it was never an issue. Arizona fans have always been excited about the future. You mentioned this will be their 4th straight top 25 game. If UCLA can win against Colorado, then they'll have their 5th straight coming up next week. But your thoughts on Oregon State, the fact that it's in Tempe, how much does that matter against the number 11 Beavers? Yeah, Oregon State splits, especially defensively, are crazy. When they're at home, they're very, very good defensively. And when they're on the road, they've been awful defensively. And I think this game is just going to – it's pretty straightforward. That the team that plays the cleaner game is going to win. I think it's very difficult with these two teams to turn the ball over, to have a lot of penalties, and still be able to come out with a win. I think Oregon State is a really good, balanced football team, and Arizona realizes that. Jason, in the end, what do you think is going to happen with, in fact, Oregon State, Washington State? Are they going to have some alliance, I guess, with the Mountain West for a schedule? All of the stuff, the lawsuit, what's going on with that? What do you think might happen? I mean, it all depends on timing, because eventually you need a plan for next season. And a lot of times court dates lead to more court dates. And so eventually there has to be a deadline for that to happen. If all the court stuff, I think Oregon State and Washington State have a very good case in court, like to retain the rights to the Pac-12 and all that. And if that happens, I could see them trying to kind of use that money and rebuild the Pac-12 or whatever it'll be called. And, if it doesn't, they'll do the merger with the Mountain West. And it's difficult for me to imagine a scheduling alignment, because in that case, how do you do standings? How do you, how does that work? Do you include them in your standings for a year or not? There's a lot that needs to be figured out. But it really right now, it just kind of depends on the court dates. And there's a couple next month, so I think we'll have a little bit more of a clear picture. Nice to hear from you, man, without so much drama, but it was good to hear from you when there was, as things eventually iron themselves out with realignment. Jason Scheer, 247 Sports Wildcat Authority, with us on the Wildcats as they become, as I've said a handful of times, kind of a problem, and a team that maybe not many thought would be an issue, but they are playing really, really well. I remember when the announcements were made about, the 3 Pac-12 schools finally deciding to pull the trigger and jump into the Big 12. Colorado got the little bit of buzz because they were the first to do it, and then of course everybody poo-pooed on Colorado that wanted it to not be looked at as a positive move, or that were Pac-12 fans or whoever, like, oh yeah, well, Colorado sucks or whatever. And it's definitely quieted down around them, but so long as Deion's there, they are going to be interesting. They are going to be interesting no matter if they're winning or losing. They're going to be really interesting, though, when they're winning. And then I think you looked at it and you're like, well, Utah, nobody can make a case that Utah's not a good ad. Like, there's no case to be made there. And then, the Arizona schools. I don't know, man. They're 2 of the more up-and-coming teams in the Pac-12. I mean, they're not at the level right now of, the multiple top 25 programs that are, all set up with great quarterbacks and have got a good thing going on just yet, but they're building up with their respective head coaches, and you can see that they've been able to kind of turn their seasons around and have some bright spots, maybe more so than people expected. So I think the thing about Arizona is you look at their some of their better players. He mentioned McMillan at wide receiver. Now they're going to lose Jacob Cowing, but McMillan at wide receiver, their running back.
his name escapes me, but Fafita, like they're all soft, they're all young guys.
Yeah.
So they got a good thing going on right there. And it's going to be fun to see them eventually join the league.
Well, what can you tell me about any Big 12 team that's coming back into the league next year that makes you think that they're just going to like grab a chokehold of the league and run?
Nothing.
Yeah. So who's ever
maybe K-State,
maybe K-State, but like again, a chokehold is kind of a relative thing. It's not going to be an OU type, run where they're winning the conference every year. But like K-State's probably set up the best today. But I mean, things change real fast.
There's a lot of Utah fans, and I know they're not sorry to cut you off. They feel like they're going to come in and just start rolling people.
Yeah, but I mean and then part of the reason I think is like, there's no reason to think that any of the 4 schools can't be better in this league than they were just in the last one because it's a completely new thing for them. So
I like the Big 12 because I think it's going to. And this is not to say they don't have or may not have some alphas. It is. There are no more Kansases. There is no weakness. There are teams that might be down, Cincinnati right now, whoever, but it's every week, man, you better bring your A+ or pretty damn B+ game, or you're going to find yourself like Oklahoma did and Texas did last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, and those teams that just came in, they're going to get better. They're going to learn from this first year, Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, and BYU. They'll recruit, and get better where they need to get better. But yeah, I just think that the way it was initially portrayed, all of a sudden that group of 4 from the Pac-12 suddenly looks a lot better a few games into this season than maybe some people thought at the time. But I'd love to see Utah at their best, which is not where they are right now, but them and K-State lining it up. I mean, imagine the Ice Baths after that game. That's going to be fun.
That would be like 2 guy gladiators at Rome back in the day, the way they play. When we come back, Mickey Spagnola, a couple of notes on the Cowboys as they play the Rams, the DeMarcus Ware induction into the Ring of Honor. This is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans. I went by there, it's been a couple of Saturdays ago, and saw Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne. And I picked out a beautiful framed picture of Adrian Peterson. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what is that? While I was there to buy some cigars, and Rocky Patel, my favorite brand, and what a great story, what a great dude that is, along with Ashton, Macanudo, Padron, Cohiba, some of the brands that perhaps you smoke too. Romeo and Julieta, Arturo Fuente, they are there. My Father, La Fontana, which is a kind of an underrated cigar, got a little sweet taste to it. But they have authentic pictures, framed pictures of Jack Nicklaus, Albert Pujols, and Nolan Ryan. Also, they, of course, are about to have the JFR Lunatic. The size that shall not be named is the name of the cigar. It's a gigantic cigar, huge ring gauge smokers, 10 inches long and a whopping 100 ring gauge. It is a monster. It's kind of, I'm not sure if that's similar to what maybe The Sopranos, when you saw and watched that great series with what they were doing. Now, James Gandolfino, right? Gandolfini in the cigar he was smoking. So they have collectibles. They have cigars, a 48-foot walk-in humidor, CBD products available, gummy for Vita Dreams to help you fall asleep much more comfortably at night, and THC product for those who have really bad, achy, chronic pain. It's Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne, Don Humidor and Coffee Beans between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com.
Prescott fires, caught, Lamb, touchdown.
Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. It is rare, and I mean rare, for the Cowboys to not be the main front page of the focus of sports in the Dallas and Fort Worth area, and they will get that back very quickly. But, Mickey, what's it been like to kind of watch the Rangers get the kind of publicity and the run that they've made and got that town all jazzed up?
Yeah, it's been kind of fun to kind of watch their success and get an opportunity to actually watch games on TV since they're not on Bally anymore. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Actually went to Game 3 against the Orioles, and I wasn't sure that I'd have time to go to the games Friday and Saturday, but I will be tuned in. So, yeah, it's a pretty neat story. Actually, it's a neat story for both teams, right? 2 years ago, they both losing 100 games, and now they're in the World Series together.
Yep. Mickey Spagnola with us on Thursdays in the 5 o'clock hour. Paul?
Mickey, I'm sure the Cowboys would love to be playing last year's Rams team. They are not. They're playing a resurgent Rams team. Matthew Stafford's been playing well. They've gotten some playmaking ability out of their wide receivers this year. What is the biggest challenge, you think, for the Cowboys against the Rams this week?
That they improve offensively. I think it's at this point of the season against a team like that, I think it's about yourself. I think that they know they've got to be better. They got to be better offensively, more consistently. They've got to run the ball better, protect the quarterback better. I understand that they went on the road and beat the Chargers, but it wasn't pretty. So I think I think Dak Prescott said it best just today. Said we got to run our own race. We can't worry about what anybody else is doing, how they're doing it, what other teams win or lose. We've got our own race to run, and we got to continue to get better. And I think that's a pretty good attitude for a team, especially offensively, that has a lot of room to get better to start playing more consistently.
Mickey, the trade deadline's coming up. I know that Jerry made some comments about it. Cowboys fans get really finicky because of what the Eagles do. They're very aggressive. They went out and got Kevin Byard, who's an excellent safety for the Titans. They got other players from the Titans. It appears that the Titans really like listening to whatever Howie Roseman has to tell them over the years. What do you think the Cowboys should do, if anything, when it comes to that? Should they focus on getting an offensive playmaker, or do you shore up a position like linebacker that you're unsure of the depth you'll have for the rest of the season?
Well, you're going to get Leighton Vander Esch back, right?
Eventually, yeah.
2 more games after this one. They did sign the veteran Rashaan Evans, who wasn't with anybody. I get it. But there was a reason they signed him, and they need to ramp him up. So they're taking a shot on a guy that had 159 tackles last year for Atlanta. I don't know, the total reason why he's not with the team. All I know is he did say, somebody said, well, you should get a new agent. And he said, I did. So I don't know if that was the reason or not, but that's some depth at linebacker if he can still play. And then you just gotta, you kind of made your bed there. But again, when you guys ask that question, you tell me, what position do they absolutely need?
I don't think they need anything.
What about, they're pretty deep, but to try to find another body at corner with Diggs, and because you got the pecking order that has to take his place in case you suffer another injury the rest of the year, would that even be on the table?
Yeah, and I'm with you on that, David. And not completely for this season, but if you were looking to next year, and somebody can give you a sweetheart deal on a cornerback, then I can see that, because so next year, let's just look at it. Trayvon Diggs is going to be trying to come back after a torn ACL. Stephon Gilmore only signed a 1-year deal, so who knows what's going to happen there, and he's going to turn 34. I think this is, I'm pretty sure, if my memory is correct, Jordan Lewis is in the last year of his deal. So if you find a corner at the right price that doesn't bust the salary cap, because you already promised some big bucks to Trayvon Diggs, right? Then I can see doing that as a depth thing going forward. It would serve you this year, but it might be the cheapest. Who knows? It could be the cheapest way to improve your cornerback position next year. Meaning, I don't have to draft one in the first or second round if Gilmore isn't re-signed, if Jordan Lewis isn't re-signed, and if Diggs is slow coming back from his ACL. So I could see that, but again, how much? What's the compensation? Do you want to, at this point, pay a first-round pick to have a fourth corner? Not that that would be the order, because obviously he'd be one of your top three. But, from what they've done so far, I don't know that the cornerback position has hurt them as much as an ineffective offense has.
Yeah, Mickey, to me, I'd rather see, somebody that could help CeeDee Lamb out a little bit, somebody that could help Tony Pollard out a little bit in expanding, helping even expand their roles, because you have to worry about somebody else. I think we saw a little bit from Brandon Cooks a couple weeks ago that if they get him involved, it can be pretty special. Michael Gallup just hasn't been Michael Gallup again yet. So something like that. But from my perspective also, I think fans need to be realistic. If they do a go-for-it trade, look, we're tired of waiting, damn the torpedoes, they don't have a lot of picks. So if you're going to go get a Mike Evans or somebody out there, it better work, because you're essentially mortgaging at least a year away if you don't win the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what the attitude is every year, right?
Yeah.
If you don't win the Super Bowl, well, you got to get better.
Yeah.
So I don't. Look, here's the way Jerry put it today, that there's nothing on the immediate horizon. He didn't feel like and he would always say this, right? Because you don't want everybody to think you're just panting, at the breath to go get somebody. But he did say he was very confident in his roster right now that they can get to where they want to go. Now, if you can improve yourself, then yes. But I'm never one to pay a steep price for somebody at this point of the season that the other team's willing to part with. Now, if it's just a salary thing, because you don't think you can sign the guy next year, and that's what the Eagles did with the safety, right? That guy wasn't going to get re-signed, and they were trying to get something that they wouldn't get next year. But other than that, look what's happened when they've made, mid-season trades. Now, it was a good one for Amari Cooper, but it was a first-round draft choice. Wasn't as good, with Williams for a wide receiver, right? Middle of the season, a first and a third, and that backfired. So you got to be careful because there's also a salary cap ramification if the guy's that good. Just don't go out and trade, right? And go, okay, I got this guy. You got to inherit a salary and give up draft picks. So, it's not as easy as playing fantasy football, by the way.
Mickey, one other question for me on the trade deadline. I don't know if that's probably like this in the NBA, NFL, or Major League Baseball, hockey. Why is it so short? And why now? Is it so? Why would it not be in 2 or 3 weeks from now when you really have more meat on the bone when it comes to your schedule?
I think that's a very good question. Other leagues, the trade deadline's further into the season, right?
Yep.
And I'm not sure why it gets settled this way. If it's a players association deal to get guys on the move sooner. But I think what you've seen over the last several years, the teams have been more amenable to making trades than they were 5-10 years ago, right? It was almost like it would take an act of Congress. Well, no, I don't mean that. To trade somebody in the middle of the season, right?
That's hard. That's harder to do now.
Yeah, because Congress ain't doing so well itself. Right?
Yeah, don't. You're not going to get an act of Congress.
Bad comparison, but no, like Mickey.
Sorry about that.
I think also teams have figured out the salary cap enough to where they're not like trying to do all this math as they were before, right? Contracts are written differently, and they kind of know how to do it a little bit better.
Well, I think at some point they've also decided, well, it's a two-pronged thing. You could say, well, they've been putting more money in signing bonus, and then if you need to get out of it when you're trying to make a trade, the base salaries are easier for the next team to accept. But again, there's so much that goes into it. It's not that easy. And I think McCarthy made a good point when somebody asked him about, the Eagles making a trade to get a safety. And he said, I've never been one to concentrate on what other teams are doing. I'm concentrating. He used the word motivated. He said, just because another team made a trade doesn't motivate me to do something also. So, and I think that's a pretty good attitude. I mean, you put your team together. And if you lose somebody for a lengthy period of time, and we can use Trayvon Diggs, it's like, well, did you think about that, what you would do? Well, they did. They thought about Deron Bland stepping up and playing corner. And he's been one of the better graded cornerbacks so far this year to go along with Gilmore. I think if there was a weakness, it would have been Jordan Lewis finally getting back from his injury that he suffered last year and getting back in the swing of things since he really didn't have any training camp. He was rehabbing the whole time. So if you trade it for a corner that can start, then you're saying, okay, Jordan Lewis, you're my fourth corner. Because I guess if you're trading for somebody, he better be out there when you're going three corners on defense, right?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, Mickey, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Cowboys and Rams coming up this weekend. The Cowboys coming off the off week. And that NFC, the Eagles have kind of had to get through a couple of things. They did beat the Dolphins and the 49ers with the Purdy injury, the concussion, and you could see where he got hit. They've kind of fallen off a little bit after they looked so dominant against the Cowboys just, 2 or 3 weeks ago. When we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5.
Unite Private Networks. Why? UPN Internet, I'll tell you. Business-grade Internet, so you got no residential customers, so you are on your own network, protected fiber service, dedicated symmetrical upload and download, speeds up to 10 gigs per second, and multiple Tier 1 connectivity for added diversity, and carrier-grade equipment at the customer premise. So that means we have the same kind of equipment here at our studio that they have back at the UPN headquarters. UPS battery backed up internet service. My God, we've already gotten to experience that once, and it is glorious. It is something I didn't even really know existed until we got UPN, and now we can't live without it. I'm never going back in any studio that we may ever be in if we ever even left this one. battery-backed UPS internet service, fantastic. And their customer service is second to none. I called the one time we needed them. It was settled in 2 rings. They told me exactly what was wrong. It was on our end and not theirs, which also is a huge thing. Told me exactly how to fix it. Boom, fixed, done. We were back on in no time. UnitePrivateNetworks.com or locally, just call my friend Ace Wigley, 254-803-7070.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 schools I predict will have a new coach in 2024. Some of these are a stretch, some of these are not. Some of these might be tinfoil hat things. You guys tell me. Number 5 in the not a stretch category, Arkansas. This thing's just not going well for Sam Pittman. There are candidates out there that I think fit this job really well. And it's just, Arkansas is just kind of there. And while he did create some excitement and he's an alum and loves it, they might need some more juice there in Fayetteville. So I think this was not too much for a stretch. I think Arkansas will have a new coach next year.
Yeah, it's been funny seeing TCU and Arkansas fans argue back and forth about Kendall Briles and how good he really is. Like, TCU fans are down in the dumps about just the direction of their record, even though it's not necessarily all on the offense, and you're also playing with a young quarterback right now. But compared to, Arkansas fans who, after last week especially, just want anybody possible who can score points, and they scored points when they had Kendall Briles, and KJ Jefferson was better when they had Kendall Briles. That's been a fun little interaction to see. But, that was a bad loss last week. I said this about Arkansas, I think, a few days ago. They just are there. They're just there. There's not anything particularly special about them. My grandfather went to Arkansas, Woo Pig Sooie, all that good stuff. A lot of respect for that university. But they're just, what's notable, really? KJ Jefferson coming into the year, but even that's just sort of, pales in comparison to other quarterbacks in the league or other quarterbacks nationally who are getting a lot more of the attention. So, that'll be one to watch. And now you've fired your OC. Can't blame him anymore. What moves do you make? I don't know what the temperature, I don't know what the situation is like boots on the ground up there, as far as like buyouts and the feeling and all of that. But yeah, it certainly seems like he's entered the picture after the last result in particular.
7-3 doesn't help.
No, absolutely not. Number 4.
Especially when you lose 7-3.
Oregon State. This one might be a little out there, and it's not because they're underperforming. It's because they are performing very well, and they're about to not be a P5 school, and somebody's going to come get Jonathan Smith. He's excellent. I know it's at his alma mater, but predicting that Oregon State will have to find a new coach because somebody's going to come and make Jonathan Smith an offer he can't refuse.
Or they might be a P2 school, but just not the P2 that people think of when they think of P2.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure there will be an Oregon State fan who's like, what is this? I mean, yeah, it's possible he could go elsewhere. He's certainly not in any danger, that's for sure. I mean, they'd sign him to a lifetime contract right now in Corvallis. Do need to play better on the road. We talked about that with Jason Scheer and had mentioned it before. But, yeah, they're a really fun story. They're going to keep on winning some more this year as well. And just to what extent that takes them to the promised land at the end of the year, remains to be seen. But, just super impressed by them. And I'd imagine there are others out there with big money at their disposal and big boosters that need a coach that they're definitely going to be looking at Corvallis, Oregon. Yep.
Number 3, Texas A&M. There's a dividing line over people who just don't think that they'll do it this year and they'll wait to see if he can beat Texas, and then people who think like, well, what difference does it make if you're going to pay him, buy him out for $76 million, or like you're paying him all, like no matter what A&M decides on Jimbo Fisher, they're paying him all that money anyway. So they probably can't let him get to the end of the contract because they're stuck in neutral, and the end of the contract's a long time from now. So whatever, they've made the commitment to pay him. So if you're going to pay him and you're not going to win, you might as well just pay him to go be somewhere else. And that's what I think is going to happen. And I think that especially if they have another icky loss to someone that they really shouldn't lose to, I don't think that happens this week against South Carolina because A&M's defensive front is so good and South Carolina offensive line is so bad. But I do think Jimbo Fisher is not going to be at A&M and that they will be hunting for a new coach. And Jonathan Smith would not be a bad one for them to go hire.
No, he wouldn't. I mean, there's a number of candidates that I think would be intriguing for them. That'd be a hot coaching carousel. You wonder, do they sit there and they try to go swing big and get a Jimbo Fisher type, or do they go Jonathan Smith or someone more along those lines? Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if it happens this year, but that buyout's not decreasing all that much for another few more years. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you're still going to be paying in the tens of millions of dollars up until I think it's like 2030 is when it gets below $20 million.
I think it's when the contract is over.
I think it's 2032 maybe when it's like they don't owe anything. Yeah. But like 2030, I think they still owe it's 2029. They would still owe $19.8 million in a buyout.
Yeah.
So pretty far away from that, although that'll be here in no time. So, yeah, I mean, how much money are you saving in the long run? At some point, you're just going to have to bite the bullet or else you're going to be waiting for another 7 years. Well, that's not happening. So, yeah, that's a situation to continue to monitor. But there's things I like about them, too. Like, that's the deal. They're not an awful football team. It's just they just cannot get over that hump.
They've got to start innovating. That's what they've got to start taking the ingredients they have and, making gourmet food and not, McDonald's. I mean, just
there's you watch them and you see what they have, but there's always just something missing. Almost, if they were winning 23-17 or whatever, you just talk about they were methodical like a Utah, but they don't win enough of those games.
No,
I don't know.
They don't. They lose a lot of 23-17 games, that's for sure. Number 2. This one is not a stretch at all. Michigan. We talk about it for the last couple of weeks. And in fact, people talk about this every year, but it really does feel like Jim Harbaugh was setting this up to be a swan song anyway. He's got J.J. McCarthy, a quarterback, and a great team. Scandals aside, of which it appears that they found out about this sign stealing thing from the FBI and police investigation into the Matt Weiss thing, which just makes you think that Jim Harbaugh needs to move on from college football for a little while, pull a Pete Carroll, go to the NFL. He is, and guys, like if you think about the all-time greatest quarterbacks in the history of the Chicago Bears, who have maybe an even worse quarterback history than the Cleveland Browns, he's like third.
Yeah, no, he's in that discussion.
They love him in Chicago. They would love to have him. So I think he's going to be the Bears coach next year, and then it'll be all said and done. So And then maybe if that doesn't work out, he can be the Colts coach, and they love him there too. If it doesn't work out with Shane Steichen there. So I think Michigan's going to have a new head coach next year.
Very well could. I mean, that's a possibility even without the scandal, like you said. I mean, it's a yearly routine, right? It's a yearly dance we do at the end of the year of Harbaugh and NFL interest and who he's interviewing with or who he could talk to or where he could go and all of that. And certainly this year there's already a lot of interesting jobs, and Chicago with that connection would be right up his alley, you would think, to go and take over. So it seems an inevitability that he's not going to be there and finish his career in Ann Arbor. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I think that all this could be just enough of that push to just say, you know what, throw your hands up and like, I'm done with the college thing. I'm going to go back to the NFL and not have to deal with all this BS or, be accused of all this BS or whatever, the feeling is. But, I mean, there's been noise there. There's been some smoke there. And then now you add on all these latest events, and I could see where that would just make him go ahead and decide to take the leap for sure.
Yep. Number 1, USC. Now, this might get back into the tinfoil hat. I don't think it's that far-fetched. I think Lincoln Riley's going to take an NFL job. We don't know who's good. Like, I can tell you that the Bears will probably be open, although they're a little bit of a winning streak right now, that the Raiders are probably going to be open, and that's all I know for right now. I think there's some other guys that they give more time to. It wouldn't shock me if the Cardinals are open because they just do that. Even though they just hired Jonathan Gannon last year, they just kind of do that. I think Lincoln Riley is going to be an NFL coach next season.
I don't think so. I understand if he gets that offer, NFL money's even bigger than some of the crazy money now in college football with coaches. But I just feel like, I think if he has a soul, if he has a soul, he would then look like he's someone that just, not every 3 or 4 years, he's somebody that bolts. Finish the damn job at USC, and I hope he does.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I'm going to give Lincoln the benefit of the doubt here. I don't know the guy, but I said before I respect him and all of that, and I didn't like the way that I started to think about him when the whole Oklahoma thing was unfolding. And not as like a jaded OU fan. I didn't get all crazy about it like some people did. I could understand it to an extent. But, yeah, I don't like the attitude around USC right now and just kind of the way it operates. And yet still I feel like it would just be such a bad look to bolt after a couple of years. It would be such an awful look for him. Even if it is to the NFL. So I'm with you, but, I mean, Paul, you have every right to feel like this is I mean, at some point, he is going to probably go to the NFL.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, like, right now would just be such a bad look. Like, how could you outdo the bad look of leaving OU in the way you did? Do that. Like, leave USC after 2 years, after all that drama, just bolt on the Trojans. That would be awful. So, I think it's going to be a little while longer, but you never know.
I just get the feeling he doesn't like being a college coach anymore.
I can understand that.
I get that.
Okay. And that's maybe what he says. Like, look, I just
see that with Harbaugh. Yeah,
if he
just
thinks
need
the
something
scrutiny at USC if that is one of the issues, he will be crushed if he's paranoid as an NFL coach.
Paxton mentioned the Tennessee Titans. I do think that's a reasonable spot too. They're about to. I mean, they're shipping guys off, and wouldn't be surprised to see Tannehill and Hopkins and Derrick Henry get traded in the next week too.
Yeah, Derrick Henry who was he being rumored to? I saw a thing the other day about him. Yeah.
The Browns, the Ravens, and of course the Cowboys are always in every mix. But let's
Cowboys go get Derrick Henry. Yeah.
Look, I would love it. I love Derrick Henry and I love the Cowboys, so that would be great. But we'll see. But yeah, I think the Titans are another possibility. And I actually think if you put Lincoln Riley with the Titans, let him get loose with a couple of his young quarterbacks, Malik Willis and Will Levis for a year, and then maybe find it, or maybe that makes them motivated to go trade up and try to get Caleb Williams, or I don't know.
Yeah,
they could still suck bad enough to go get him, I guess. But
I know we got to run here, but here's just a NFL coaches on the hot seat list, just to kind of see where the talk is. The Commanders.
Yeah.
Make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. The Bears, obviously, we mentioned them. The Buccaneers.
I don't know. I mean, they're 3-3, but maybe.
Just going off this list.
Yeah.
Carolina, that seems too soon, right?
Yeah, it's a little too soon.
That seems too soon. The Raiders for sure. So you say Raiders, Commanders, Bears, Chargers?
Yeah, Chargers, yeah. I mean, and look, if I'm the Chargers with just Justin Herbert bringing in a quarterback guru like Lincoln Riley.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that one. Yeah, the Chargers are just kind of there as well. They're just sort of there.
Yeah.
This shows the Bills, but I can't imagine Sean McDermott. I mean, I know they're kind of
Ken Dorsey might be in trouble.
If
but
that thing falls apart, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I guess, but yeah, those are just some of the jobs that are being speculated about.
All right, Paul. Thank you very much. Don't forget Sports Tonight, 365 Sports Tonight at 10:30 tonight on the CW. Back at it tomorrow. Paul has the show 3 to 6. Craig and I have one more regular season high school game. Tomorrow night, Midway playing against Weiss out of Pflugerville near Austin, and then at least one playoff game in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks from now. Do you have the Chris Vanini tweet to close it out? Because there's been a lot of this about the ratings, the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. Has any team that has ever won a world championship in the history of ever said, yeah, but we had bad ratings that year?
No.
That's what losers say about somebody else's ratings, honestly. I bring up the ratings in college football, and I say, and I preface it like every time nearly of like, this is not like mine's bigger than yours or whatever. It's just like an interesting look at, what's going on. And, I said, yes, I don't care if I'm the only person that watches the World Series. If the Rangers win it, then I don't care about any of y'all watching the World Series. I don't care how many of y'all watch it. I don't care. That was a Nate Silver thing, which wouldn't be the first time he's shown how obnoxious he is. So, yeah, glad that a few people tried to put him in his place, but I think his head's so far up there, it doesn't really matter.
All right, thank you to Grayson. You have him tomorrow?
Yes.
Grayson tomorrow with Paul, among other guests, to get into the college football weekend. Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter, he's working on 365 Sports tonight. Levi Caraway, who was thrilled to get that Rangers hat. He sent me a nice text. Garrett Ross, also Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, all of you who are a part of 365 Sports in whatever way it is. And, of course, our great sponsors that allow us to do what we do. I'm David Smoak. Have a great night, and good night, 365 Sports.